Michael, this was not the week that I needed to have like all the news in the world happen because you and I are recording this, and as of the recording for this, it is 2 hours and 30 minutes until Sekiro unlocks on my PS4.
Oh, geez.
So we got to get going, man. We got to do this podcast because I have to turn off this podcast and play Sekiro forever and ever. Do you know there was no Souls game last year?
There was
no
not.
Soul games last year. In fact, I don't even remember if the DLC for Dark Souls 3, maybe that was last year. Anyway, doesn't matter. Everybody knows. Everybody's tired of listening to Jeff talk about Souls games and whatever. So, but what they're not tired of hearing Jeff talk about is the Rage Select podcast right here on Rage Select, and I am Jeff.
And I'm Mike.
And yeah, we got a whole boatload this week.
A whole lot of things happened.
Lots of stuff happened this week. I was amazed. I was expecting a normal rambly podcast, but like, nah, not really. But the most important thing that happened outside of Sekiro, because that's really the most important thing, is there's a new trailer for John Wick 3. And this trailer is just like, I mean, it's just like an action montage of John Wick fuck people the fuck up.
It's everything but him using a kitchen sink on somebody.
Yes, yep, pretty much. It's just, I guess I was a little surprised to see Angelica Houston. You're in this movie for some reason.
Also Halle Berry, too.
Halle Berry's in here. It's an angry Halle Berry, though. I have a hard time taking angry Halle Berry super seriously when she's like, now I'm serious.
After seeing Catwoman, I have a hard time seeing her seriously in general.
Just in life, when you see her at the Starbucks. And
exactly.
Everything. Yeah.
That movie's awful, by the way.
I don't know. What are your feelings about John Wick Chapter 3?
I think it just looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's not really a serious plot anymore.
Yeah.
It never really was all that much to begin with.
See, the thing is, I think the first one really hangs together, and I think the second, I don't think the second one's a bad movie. I just I'm not as big a fan of the like esoteric underworld of John Wick so much as I am of like the character John Wick.
Yeah.
And so starting to focus so much on like the rules of the Continental, and I'm just like, I don't really care about that. I just kind of want to see him shoot a bunch of people.
And he does, apparently, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I do like the part where he's hitting people on motorcycles with samurai swords. That part is pretty cool.
I think my favorite part is where he just throws a bunch of knives into a dude over and over again.
He's just like throwing one. I like the beginning of that scene where they both turn around. They're like, apparently neither one of them have like any weapons, and they both turn around and see that there's like just racks of knives behind glass, and so they just bust them out and start throwing them at each other.
It's like it reminded me of a beat 'em up where there's just weapons in the background that you can just grab.
Yeah. You know, the thing that I'm just gonna I know that I might be hitting some of Jeff's greatest hits, and anybody who listens to this podcast will know that I'm not above repeating myself. But like, why don't we have a John Wick game? There was that one like HTC Vive game.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But like, what about just like a full-on first-person shooter of John Wick? Make it a prequel. That way it doesn't have to fit in. Like, he obviously used to work for the mob.
It was so strange when they added him into Payday 2.
Oh, yeah. Then they did that, and it was like everything but making a John Wick game.
Yeah.
Which, you know, would be the obviously logical thing you could either do just like a straight up Max Payne ripoff, like a third person Max Payne ripoff.
I'd play that.
Or you could make like a first person, like what was that Criterion game, like Black or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
Or just have something that has like a bunch of kind of like style stuff.
There's a lot of cool shit you could do with it.
You know what I would like is if they made it so it's like Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, where you could like rewind time to a degree, and then like give
it's
you
a Bill and Ted game at that point.
Speaking of which, also Bill and Ted 3 is coming finally.
Yeah.
Like, sit down, John Wick. I'm all about the wild stallions.
Exactly.
That was also great. But yeah, I just don't know why they won't make a video game out of this. It's like, this is the game that you should be making this into a game. Like, look, it's got levels. It's got set pieces. Like,
It really does.
There's like in the city level. There's the driving level. There's like there's a weird like I saw a bunch of mummy shit. I'm not like the mummy, but like a bunch of in the desert Egypt kind of stuff going on.
Well, they can go like the Path of Neo. You remember when that happened?
No, I don't.
They made a game called the Path of Neo.
No, I don't want to do that.
All three Matrix games or movies. You used to do that with John Wick.
What was the one that was like the tie-in with Revolutions, where you played as Jada and
Enter the Matrix?
Enter the Matrix?
Yeah.
Man, that game was not very good.
No, it was not. But people loved it.
It was not very good. Well, that was when everything had to have a media blitz. You had to have a video game tie-in and the Animatrix. And I'm like, can we go back to the video game tie-in except do good ones instead of bad ones? Because every time
they're all phone games now.
Yeah, but like they don't Like, I'd pay $60 for a good John Wick game, man. Like, I'd pay. You don't have to, like, rip people off with free-to-play phone games. You could make, like, an actual honest-to-God video game, and I would buy it with my money. Like,
I kind of want shovelware to be a thing again, just so I can see a John Wick cooking game.
John Wick kart racing.
Yeah,
you know,
it uses the Wii controls.
we
or
made a
whatever.
John Wick game, but it's actually like a fighting game. It's like a 2D fighter.
It's the Street Fighter the movie game.
Yeah, exactly. Or like the Fight Club. Remember there was like that Fight Club fighting
You
game.
can get Limp Bizkit.
Or my favorite, Def Jam, like icon.
Def Jam was awesome though.
No, but the PS3 one was not very awesome.
No, it was not. The PS2 one was fantastic though.
So yeah, come on, guys! Like make like they're all in with this media blitz shit, but then they won't actually make any video games, and that's because they got their hand burned because they tried to make shitty ones for so long, and then nobody would buy them, and they're just like, I guess nobody wants. It's that dumb Hollywood argument. It's like, guess nobody wants video game ties. It's like, we would if you just made good ones.
Stop making really bad ones, and we'll buy them.
Like, whenever I ask people about movie tie-in games, the Riddick game is like the really good one that comes up, and I'm like, just give it to a developer that could do something.
The X-Men Origins Wolverine game is the best thing that came out of that movie.
Yeah, but like, I don't want a movie tie-in for a bad movie.
But that's the thing is, you can make a great game based on something that's awful, and so it's like, but the fact that they don't at all frustrates me because that game is fucking awesome.
I literally, I mean, I know there was a Kinect game, but I think that like the fact that nobody made a Pacific Rim game is like it's heartbreaking to me. It's literally heartbreaking.
They made like an actual shovelware fighting game.
I think it was a Kinect only game.
No, it was a 360 game.
Ugh.
It was like really not all that great. I remember because it was an Xbox Live Arcade game that I downloaded.
Just copy King of the Monsters, make a little pixel.
Yeah, it was this like fighting game where like you had cooldown with if you were the robot or whatever. It was really weird.
It sounds terrible.
It could have been good.
Anyway, speaking of the Animatrix, also I got a chance last week to watch that Love, Sex, and Robot.
Oh,
Sex,
yeah.
Violence, and Mainframes or whatever it's called. What is it called?
Love, Robots, and Death or something like that? Or is it Love, Sex, Robots, and Death?
Love. Here, I'm just gonna type in Love Robots Netflix and we'll see. Whatever it is,
Love, Death,
and Robots.
Hey,
They don't also. I don't like the fact they don't use an Oxford comma in there. I want my fucking Oxford comma because it's like Love, Death, and Robots. But yeah, this kind of one snuck up on me, and I think I just hit the play button just to be like, hey, what's this about? And it was like 10-minute kind of Animatrix style, like, ooh, look at this, and then there's a twist at the end, and it's like, okay. But the fact that they were 10 minutes meant that, like, if it was okay, then it's just 10 minutes of my time, like, and then it would just play the next one.
Yeah, they were like varying because there was one that was like 5 minutes, 6 minutes. I was gonna watch them, but I ended up watching the second half of Arrested Development.
Okay. Well, I thought they were okay. They had the thing is that they're very bite-sized, so some were not as good and some were better. And it was really a good thing to kind of put on in the background. It was just kind of like subbing in for a YouTube channel. The only criticism that I have, and I've said this a whole bunch of times, I'm going to keep saying it, is that series wants you to know that it's for adults because it's got a lot of titties in it, motherfucker. Look at these titties. Look at these CGI mannequins having sex on a table.
I thought we were past the heavy metal phase.
I it's weird. Like, it really reminds me of like the Animatrix meets Liquid Television, like, because it's kind of that level of, that
sounds awesome though when you say that.
I think it's pretty good, but it's like, you know how Aeon Flux is deep, and I use quotey fingers for that. It's deep in that way.
It's got an eye, a fly that goes in her eye or whatever.
Right, like where it's like, oh man, this is a serious story about like blah blah blah, and it's like, it's not really that serious, you guys, but you've got to take it really seriously, otherwise, And so some are good and some are bad. The thing is that it's Netflix. I was yelling at Matt Frank about the Cloverfield paradox the other day, where it's just like, watch it, and if you don't like it, stop watching it. You didn't leave your house, you didn't pay for it, and you can stop watching it whenever the fuck you want to. If you think Bird Box is so stupid, quit watching it and go watch Roma, and then you have a great time and sip your wine, eat your cheese, and tell all your friends how smart you are. I'll be over here being like, I don't know, I thought Bird Box was fine. Speaking of things that are fine, how's Arrested Development's second half?
It was a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah,
Like, it was a lot better than the first half. There was a lot more like jokes in it. A lot of weird.
that's always good.
Yeah, there were there were jokes that worked. I think is what it is actually a good way of putting it.
Okay.
Because the first half is kind of weird, but the second half was actually a lot of fun. It had a weird ass reveal though at the last second, but other than that, I thought it was great.
Okay, but you might not be the right person to ask because you're all in on Arrested Development.
I'm all in on Arrested Development. Michael Bluth is like one of the characters I love the most. I for some reason feel very close to him.
Yeah. I used to until season 4 when he became a like tone deaf idiot who could like they dragged that getting him out of George Michael's dorm room too long. Way too long.
It was bad.
And it was painful, and it was like, yeah. Used to be it was kind of like you suck, but in a lovable way, and now it's like, you're
just making terrible decisions, Mike.
You just kind of suck. Anyway, well, that's good to hear. So we got Netflix covered. We got John Wick covered. We don't have time to fuck around. Let's get into this. So one of the big things that happened last week was Stadia was announced. And this is Google's I think we've been having like rumblings for a while because Google did that test with the streaming Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
And they were apparently like talking to developers like crazy the past couple of years.
Yeah, and so they finally came out, and this is during GDC. I didn't actually watch the whole talk. I actually watched a video on Engadget's website that was like they cut together 14 minutes of it to show you like the highlights.
Oh, okay.
But okay, so what is this thing? And Stadia is presumably going to be like a subscription service, but it's some kind of service. And it is that thing that we've been talking about for a long time where instead of having hardware to run your video games, the games will be run in the cloud, streamed to your whatever device.
It's on live.
Phone, tablet. Yeah, exactly. It's on live. And then your controller inputs go back and forth. And so it's basically like the thing I like about this as a concept is that it frees up having to have megabytes of blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You know, it all has happening on a server blade somewhere out there. Now the one thing that they talked about that I thought that was really interesting is the controller. Is that one of the ways that they're trying to reduce input lag is by having this specific controller that connects directly to your Wi-Fi network, and so outside of the device that you're dealing with, it has a straight shot to the router, to the server blade that's playing the game. So like normally, like with the PlayStation Now, right? The Now app will launch, and then it's like your controller inputs are going through the PlayStation, through PlayStation Now, down the pipe to the game, and then back up the pipe, and then back out. You know, so like I think that's an interesting way to attempt to reduce the input lag if you have a kind of bad connection. I actually read some people who got there and played it. And apparently, for games like Assassin's Creed, like like Assassin's Creed already has some input lag. Like it's 30 frames per second. You're not expected to be doing like 360 no scope headshots, right?
Yeah.
You're just playing the single player game, and so a little bit of input lag isn't going to be that big of a problem as long as it's not noticeable. And apparently, when you're dealing with something like that, it's almost completely you don't feel it at all.
Yeah.
Now I did read about some people who played like Doom, and apparently with Doom is 60 frames per second and requires you to 360 no scope you're doing shit in Doom. Apparently Doom, it's a little distracting. Like it's not great, but it is passable. Like if you really want the best Doom experience, you're going to want to be playing it on a high-end PC or on a console that's built to render it right there. Right?
It's really its biggest hurdle, though, because that's the thing about streaming is that when there's a dip in a stream when you're watching something, you can get past it because it's just, you're watching it.
Right.
But when you're playing a game and you're like, I just need to hit him one fucking time, and the buttons that lag is just so fucking much that you just lose that shit, you're gonna be super pissed off. Like it's not... it's not as easy to get over kind of thing.
Well, the other thing that really concerns me is like the way that most streaming works, because I got the 4K TV and I watched some Netflix stuff in 4K, right?
Yeah.
Is that like Netflix has the ability to like pre-buffer what's going to be coming up, and then once it has like a baseline, I assume that it works like YouTube used to, where it's like once it gets a baseline of like 720p, then it'll start buffering at a higher, then it'll start buffering even higher than that, so that if you have a dip, it'll like just dip down to, from 4K to 1080 to 720 and then back up again once it goes. But like a game can't do that because you're constantly having input and output. So it's like
exactly,
you have to be able to stream like in real motherfucking time, which it's interesting because Google owns YouTube, and in my opinion, YouTube's performance is not great, at least with my internet in my area.
Same.
Now, I mean, if they can pull it off, fine. And if it's the sort of thing where I can try it out for, if it's like $10 a month and your first month is free, I can try it out and it'd be like, no, this doesn't work. Bye-bye. But there's actually way more to it than that, because like if you're streaming on YouTube, like somebody could literally be watching your video, your live Let's Play on YouTube, and then say like, I want to queue up for multiplayer in that game. And because the stream, like literally the stream that you're playing is also the stream that other people could be watching, that they could literally just like jump in. A really good example that I heard was like, let's say that you were doing a live stream of like Apex Legends, and then you just wanted to hit a button that was like, put all the viewers into Apex Legends. Like if everybody has this subscription and you've got 500 viewers, and like, what is Apex Legends, like 50 or 60 or something like that? And 60 of them have this service. You could just be like, okay, now we're going to make a game where it's just all of us together. Or the idea that you could be watching somebody playing the game on a YouTube video, and because it's that YouTube video literally has the information from the server of you playing the game, that you could take a snapshot that it's constantly knows what the game state is, so that you could be like watching me play a game and then be like, okay, pause this video and then I want to start playing the game from right there, is kind of that's a really interesting concept.
It's crazy.
I don't like it in that I feel like there will be a new YouTube industry. I'm putting on my Johnny Carson hat. Nobody knows that reference.
I got it.
Where it's like, I was trying to think of what his name is, but all I could think of was Mentok the Mind Taker, and I know that Johnny Carson was not Mentok the fucking Mind Taker. But like, what I can't imagine is somebody watching like me play a game on YouTube and then being like, "Hey, you know what? Stop it right there, and now I'm gonna." Stop the game, rewind to where you started, and be like, I'll show you how to really play Sekiro. I'm going to pick up your game state where you fucked up your game, and then I'm going to play it right and then post it as like a response video where it's like, if you would have just done this, then you could have been good at that game. Idiot.
It's going to, okay, the thing about because what you had said is gonna, I feel like cyberbullying is gonna be so fucking high because of it. Because not only could you do that, you could also join a dude's game in the middle of it and start fucking with him. So it's just like, there's gotta be some barriers to this thing, hopefully.
Oh yeah. I mean,
but if anybody can pull this weird ass shit off, it's Google, because they have a million servers.
Yes.
Whereas like OnLive was an attempt at it 10 years ago.
Yeah, they've got. In fact, they were showing in their coverage map like the servers that they have, and then a lot of their servers are connected via like the servers in different countries are connected via underground like fiber cables and stuff. So, the thing is that I like this technology, and I feel like if we could just motherfucking upgrade the infrastructure in the United States to be fiber optic like everybody fucking else, then like. Hell, if they would bring Google Fiber from South Austin to North Austin,
that would be nice.
It's in the same town as me, and I can't get it. Jason has it, and I don't.
Oh, does Jason finally have it?
Oh, he's had it for years, and he comes over to my house every time he sees me installing an update. He gives me shit because he's just like, "Why is this taking so long?" And I'm like, "Because I don't have it, ass."
Do you remember what happened to him prior to that, though?
No,
like it was like a block away from him.
Oh yeah.
He had to wait for like that entire time.
Fuck.
I felt so bad for him at at the time.
I've been on the waiting list for that shit for like 3.5, 4 years. I would run all of Rage Select right out of this building if I could just get Google Fiber up in here. Stream 24 hours a day, 4K, 8K, a million K. I'll put all the Ks in that bandwidth. In any case, the interesting thing is that this is coming this year, and they partnered. Actually, it's coming like in, I think it's like June or something.
Something like
right?
that. Pretty early, actually.
They're partnering with a bunch of people. They actually have their own game studio where they're going to be trying to make games specifically to go on here. It seems like they're going all in on this, which is not to say that Google hasn't gone all in on things and then they've been terrible failures and they're gone now.
It's happened a lot, actually.
What was the name of the dumb social media?
Google Plus.
Google Plus. Oh
and
my god.
They think they're shutting it down soon.
I think it's already shut down.
They've done a lot of weird shit like that. Like, they keep going, I have an idea for a thing, and then it fails, and they'll just sort of slowly push it under a rug and just hope no one remembers that they did that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I used to be very pro Google, and now I'm kind of like Google neutral.
After I worked for them a bunch of times, I am a little negative Google.
Yeah.
Because they are clearly crazy people.
So, I don't know, like the concept, I feel like there are a lot of companies, because Microsoft's doing the same thing, right? Or they're trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
If anybody can bust this as a concept to a point where people can where it's functional, where the lag is low enough that it's functional, I feel like that's a good thing. Like that's a thing I'd like to see, because the idea of disconnecting our experience from the individual screen that we're on, to me, is really cool. It means that, like, you know, I can be playing a 4K version of Assassin's Creed, or I can be playing a 4K version of Sekiro anywhere. Like anywhere that has a decent internet connection, I could be doing that. So I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm going to say that this is 100% one of those things where it's like, I've got to get this in my hands before I can make a judgment call.
Absolutely.
Like, because it's all about whether or not it actually works, and you're not going to know that until you get it in your hands. They also have this weird thing where it's like a Google like assistant button, where when you press it, you can like ask Google, like, hey, how do I get past this one part? And it will literally show you texts and YouTube videos and Discord chat. It'll like scrape the entire internet to say, how do I get past this thing? And
that's not terrifying at all.
Tomb Raider, yeah. Well, you know, at least if we're gonna have, you know, if we're gonna just give up all of our privacy for at least we could get some good games in return for it.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I'd rather get something instead of just, because apparently we're just gonna give it all up. Like, nobody cares anymore.
Yeah,
we're giving it all up. So if we're gonna give it all up, if I'm going to have to decline 8 robocalls a day, then, like, maybe not getting stuck in a video game, I mean, I wouldn't exactly trade those one for one, but I would prefer to get something as opposed to nothing.
True.
So, it's interesting, and anybody who's interested in this, I would also, I feel like it's worth, the question is worth asking, what is it going to cost? I mean, because if it's like $10 a month, I'll give it a try. If it's like $30 a month, that's too much.
I think 20 was my limit right now.
20. I think 20 is on the upper end of what I would be willing to think about. The problem that I have, of course, too, is that I've got a shitload of things to play video games already. So
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It was interesting. Again, I'm like rooting for this tech because I would like it to be a thing, mostly because I really like the idea of disconnecting our entertainment experience from like where we are sitting. You know, it's like a lot of us have our houses arranged so that we've got screens pointed at couches.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you can play a game on a tablet, then you can play it anywhere.
It's very much what the Switch is doing right now, luckily.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the reasons it's so popular, because it's doing that right now.
But if we can have, like, you know, games that look really, really good on the Switch. Not that Switch games look terrible, but, you know.
That's such a backhanded comment.
No, they're fine looking. It's just we know that the Switch doesn't exactly have, like, you know, a quad-core i7 or whatever. You know, it's obviously running something that can run in that form factor, so. Well, hell, but the Switch already does it in Japan, like the Resident Evil 7.
True, yeah.
You know, they're already dealing with that. It's just they have the infrastructure to not have to screw around with separate controllers and all this bullshit.
They're all powered by Super Sentai characters.
Yeah. Speaking of Nintendo, we had a Nindies showcase We're going to run down this pretty quick because not everything here was really worth talking about. But I do have a list of the things that are on here. So some of the more interesting things that I feel like we saw, we started out with a really, really, really bizarre trailer that I don't understand what the trailer was doing. This guy, black and white, this guy in a mask putting milk in a cup, and then it turns out it's Cuphead.
I'm actually like really excited I can finally play this thing that has tortured so many people.
Do you not have a way to play it now?
Yeah, I don't have an Xbox.
Oh, what's on the PC?
Well, I don't have a PC that is good for gaming.
Oh, okay.
My brother gave it to my dad for some reason.
Jeez, bro. Don't give away my PC.
Well, no, it's really funny to me. So,
but yeah, so Cuphead is coming to the Switch, which is good. I think the Switch has been doing a really good job of building up a really good library of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And this is a very good addition, especially considering the control scheme for Cuphead, the way that you could have the two Joy-Cons as two-player, so you can have Cuphead and Mugman. I'm not really a big fan of Cuphead because I don't like just boss rushing.
Oh,
which
okay.
is what Cuphead is, but I still like the style. I don't know. Let's see. After that, we got a trailer for. I think we saw this at the PC Games show last year. A game called Overland, where it's like an apocalypse that's procedurally generated. It's real stylish, and you're trying to drive across the country. It's all like turn-based XCOM style grids, but you know you're dealing with these like monsters and trying to get your resources together. I mean, it looks okay.
It's like Oregon Trail.
Yeah. I didn't like Oregon Trail, so I don't know.
No one really actually likes Oregon Trail.
I'm sure there's somebody. I liked the Oregon Trail.
Oh, yeah.
With the zombies and shit. I don't know. I mean, this looks all right. Like it reminds me a little bit of what was that? Death Road to Canada.
Oh yeah,
but like a serious version of Death Road to Canada. I don't know. It being a roguelike apocalypse, it's like, okay, so everybody's just gonna die over and over and over again. Huzzah. After that, it turns out that My Friend Pedro, which was announced at the last Devolver Digital E3 event, is going to be a console exclusive for the Switch. So it's coming to the PC and then Switch. Considering that I believe Ape Out was the same thing, I think that Devolver Digital and the Switch, they're in Nintendo are in super tight these days.
I'm really excited though because I remember watching so many things on this and it just looks like so much fun.
Yeah, this is like the crazy parkour, and there's a talking banana and a lot of slow motion. Yeah, I mean it looks really awesome. You guys know I'm pretty much down for whatever Devolver Digital puts out.
Absolutely, fucking lootly.
Let's see. From there, we saw NeoCab, which was another. We've seen this one before. This is like you're the last rideshare driver in an automated city, and you're trying to find your girlfriend, and so you're taking people on ride shares and talking with them, and it's kind of like a talkie RPG type of thing.
Oh, neat.
It's very stylized. This game looks like it's. I don't know. It's gonna be hard to tell for me.
Yeah,
Just by default, it's like you got to keep your rideshare ratings up, and then you also have to deal with like your grid of emotions. And I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah, that can go either way.
Yeah, this one could be just like insufferably hipstery or like good, and I don't know. I don't know. Still, another one of those. I probably have to see it before I decide. On the other hand, it's funny. I have like zero interest in the Red Lantern. Not Atrocitus. Not him. This is like the story of a woman who is fed up with life, and so she got some dogs, and she's doing the Iditarod, which is the big dog sled endurance race.
Oh, okay.
And it's like there's nature, and you've got to hunt for food and try to survive in the icy north. And I look at this and go, I'm not really very interested in that.
If they've replaced the main character with Solid Snake, I'll play it.
I don't even know if I want to do that. I mean, I don't know. I just
make it like the prequel to Metal Gear Solid before they kidnapped him.
You know what it looks like? It looks like Firewatch or like The Long Dark or one of those games where I'm like, this is boring. I'm
Okay.
bored. I'm bored, and this is boring. I don't know. Maybe the dogs are all cute, but like this whole trailer, you just see the dogs from the backside. So
Yeah. It's for people who want to travel, but not really.
Yeah, I don't know about this one. It just doesn't. It's not really doing very much for me. Darkwood is coming to the Switch. John and I played this on Super Awesome Video Game Show a while back. It's like a survival horror game that's like top down. It's very, very bleak and very, very dark. You have to like during the day you kind of walk around looking for stuff. It's and then at night you're kind of trying to like fortify against monsters that are out and about. We played it. It's very nerve-wracking because it's got a very much it uses the kind of line of sight of a top-down game where like when a door is closed, when you open it, you kind of have a sight cone and you don't know what a thing is unless you're looking at it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I mean, this is a game that's already been very well received on the PC. Came out probably a year and a half, something like that.
Oh, okay.
So that's coming out. From there, we saw a game that I am really interested in called Katana Zero, which is like you play as a ninja assassin that can kind of slow down time, and it's this kind of 2D platformy animated thing where you can slow down time and like deflect bullets and stuff like that. The catch is that you only get one shot will kill you.
Oh,
so.
okay.
And you go back to the beginning of the level when that happens to kind of start back over again. And then in between, it's like you have to go see a therapist and get like drugs and stuff. But did you see this particular? You didn't get a chance to watch all of this.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see this part.
Did you see this one? I don't know. I think it looks pretty good. Like I kind of dig the art, the kind of the small sprites.
It needs more pure story mayor therapists.
Yeah. To ask you what you're more afraid of.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. That's going to be out on April 18th, but I think it looks pretty cool. Again, that's another Devolver Digital. It actually reminds me of there was a game. There was a game that was a Devolver Digital game where you had like a Ronin, where you had a motorcycle helmet and kind of doing the same type of thing. I don't remember what the exact. If that was like it was like a turn-based thing where you would.
So it's been a while.
You get a certain number of like moves, and so you're trying to like figure out how to get through this room.
Oh yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah. From there, Double Fine came out to announce a game called Rad. I don't know how rad actually is. It's like some kind of weird post-apocalyptic world where you're like this kid, and you're it's like a isometric. You're beating up mutants. And then at the same time, you're like getting mutations. So you get like a giant snake head or like, and then you can like use that giant snake head to like attack people or like a boomerang arm or whatever. At the very end, they actually showed the main character like pooping out little baby monster versions of himself.
That is so weird.
With his little head and then like little monster bodies. I don't know. Like I look at this and I mean, maybe I just need to play it, or maybe I'm not getting it from this one trailer, but it doesn't look like anything super special to me. I guess maybe when I hear Double Fine's making a thing, I always kind of expect something a little bit more, plus ultra, so to speak. So
I get what you mean.
Again, I don't think it looks really bad or anything. I guess it's just not.
It's just okay looking.
Yeah, like the visual style isn't exactly like the greatest. But who knows? Maybe it is rad as hell. I'm just not seeing it.
It needs more Jack Black.
Yeah. Oh, also, by the way, I watched that My Hero Academia movie.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. It's all right.
Good.
It's okay.
It's fun. The last part's really amazing.
Yeah. From there, a game that I don't know if I'm just getting old or what, but this is called Creature in the Well, and it's like you play as like a samurai or like a ninja, but it's like pinball. You grab these little balls and then you throw them into these pinball levels that have like bumpers and stuff, and you're trying to knock stuff down. Something about the pinball aspect really kind of turns me off with this game.
Somebody was playing pinball, a ninja guy in a pinball machine, and went, I have an idea.
Yeah.
And then went from there.
I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan of pinball, and so maybe that's what the thing is. Like,
it's a cool gimmick, but that's all I can say.
I guess it all looks like too. It looks too pinball-y, right? Like they'll have the bumpers and stuff. I mean, like, I guess I just don't
Looks
see
too much like the thing it's selling.
Well, maybe, but I guess it's just. I guess I wanted them to tart it up a little bit more so that it doesn't just look like a straight up weird bad pinball table. Plus, so much of what they say when they say pinball is I'm looking at this and it's like bumpers and rails and you're bouncing a ball off bumpers and rails. But like everybody knows the best part of pinball is like ramps and like weird, targets that come up that you're trying to shoot. Like the bumpers are like the least interesting part of pinball.
Absolutely.
You want to like lock 4 balls and then get multi-ball and then, yeah.
You got to spell out something and get that extra ball.
Exactly. Let's see. From there was a game called Blood Roots, where Mr. Wolf is this like weird bearded guy with a wolf hat who I'm pretty sure is infringing upon the Rage Select trademark of Dr. Albert Schnitzel by having a beard and an animal on his head. But this is like a weird, like kind of top-down action game where you're supposed to just use everything around you to kind of make these like crazy-ass combos. This one looks kind of interesting. I don't know. It kind of depends on how it plays.
Pretty fun.
It's like, you use a ladder to become a helicopter and then use that to get up on top of a thing, or like get on a wagon and roll down a hill. I don't know. This one does kind of seem a little interesting to me. I guess the thing is, maybe, Michael, is that when I look at the indies and I look at the release schedule, I'm just like, there's so much coming out that like I only have time to play like 4 of these games. So I'm going to pick like the top 4, and I'm not going to get invested in the rest of them because I don't want there to be a game where I'm like, I want to play it, but I don't have any time.
I know the feeling.
From there, we saw a game called Pine that to me looked boring as fuck. Where it was like a bunch of monster men and like a kid, and you're out in the wilderness and you're like hunting and shooting stuff and then like trading stuff in. I don't know. This game looks...
I'm confused already.
Like the game world is empty and the animation is very flat and like the art design is okay, but the quality of this game looks poor.
It looks really bad, actually.
Like, you see what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, the way that horse ran looked really bad.
Like
the tax animation's really bad.
Yeah. Like the city just seems like a bunch of copy and paste buildings.
Like it looks nice, but...
It looks okay, but then it also has that problem that you see a lot of times in indie games where it's just like there's large swaths of nothing.
Yeah.
Of just flat area. So, I don't know. Maybe this one is just... It says it's going to be out in August. I was going to say maybe it's just not very finished yet, but it just doesn't look very good to me.
Maybe it'll get more work.
We had a couple of quick ones here. Super Crate Box is coming, which is just a little 2D platformer, and you can do multiplayer in it. Looks a little boring. Nuclear Throne is out.
Sweet.
Nuclear Throne's fun if you've never played that before. I'm like, if I tell you that a game that is coming to this console is already out, chances are you can go to the YouTube channel of Rage Select, and we probably played it at some point.
It's really good, though.
Vlambeer is putting out the Vlambeer arcade, starting with a game called Ultra Bugs. That's like they're supposed to be like really small, kind of bite-sized experiences. This one is kind of like a twin stick shooter, and it's like you're shooting these bugs in space, but when you kill them they just multiply into more bugs. But then there are boss bugs that if you shoot them it like kills a certain number of them.
Oh, okay.
So it looks okay. That's going to be out later on this year. From there's another 4-player kind of online shooter up called Swim Sanity because it's all underwater. Again, this is kind of boring to me because I feel like I see a game that looks like this once every 2 months. Just somebody's making a thing on Steam and it's like, oh, it's all bears. And you and 3 of your friends can play this bear game that I made. Or like, I don't know.
That seems to be the trend.
I mean, I don't know. Am I being overly pessimistic here? You can see these games.
It looks kind of like somebody took the Splatoon like font and then tried to make a game out of it.
Okay. However, here's a good one. Blaster Master Zero has a sequel, Blaster Master Zero 2, and this was, by the time you hear this podcast, you'll already see in the dojo for it. This was one of those, like, announced and then it's out today.
Oh, okay.
And I liked Blaster Master Zero, even though I didn't get a chance to play it, because unfortunately it came out, like, early on, I believe, in the Switch's life cycle, and, like, Breath of the Wild.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like, I didn't have time to be playing a throwback Blaster Master game, even though I like Blaster Master a lot. Like,
yeah, my friend had it, and I played it, and I remember really liking it.
yeah, and so this one's got a few new kind of mechanics to it. Matt and I played a little bit of it. It seems cool. I mean, like, I like the fact that Blaster Master's a thing, and I like the fact that apparently the first one sold well enough that they decided to make a sequel. So cool.
Good for them.
And it's like you fly around in space and go to different planets, and I like that too. I'm a big fan of space and flying around in space. So yeah, I mean, what's not to like? Also, it's out. Also, it's like $15. Also,
okay.
Shut up. It's Blaster Master. I mean, whatever. Like, they even use the same. I feel like they use a lot of the same animation style when you're like, when you're driving your car. Like, it looks so much like the original NES game. I don't know. I dig this one quite a bit. Like, I think that there's a weird new system where you have an SP bar that governs a lot of your attacks, and you can get power for it by falling great distances, and when you hit the ground, it converts the kinetic energy into sub-weapon energy. So it's like one of the things you can do is hover way high and then just like let yourself fall, and then you get a bunch of energy. So
good for them, though.
Yeah, looks good.
The projects of love.
And then, I mean, we're not going to end on a total down note, but we are going to go back down again because Stranger Things 3 was announced, the third Stranger Things game.
Hooray, question mark?
I didn't finish watching the second series on Netflix, and I never played any of the games.
And they were like phone games, though, weren't they? Or something like that?
Yeah, sort of. I'm bored with this franchise, and I don't care about it. Did you watch Stranger Things Season 2?
I never watched the first one.
You never watched the first? Hey, all right, I got the perfect people on the podcast. I don't know. It's like, so much of the... Well, okay, so here's the thing. Let me be clear about what I've got here. What we're looking at is like an isometric beat-em-up game where you have two characters, and it seems like they each have a power, and then they use those two powers together, right? Okay,
yeah.
Nothing wrong. Pixel art style, looks like it's fine. The issue is that this game seems like it's being sold on like, now you can go into the world of Stranger Things. And I'm like, I don't want to watch the world of Stranger Things, let alone go into the world of Stranger Things. But it is cool because it comes out the exact same day as season 3 of Stranger Things. So
good for them.
If you're into Stranger Things, I've said the word Stranger Things too many times. Stranger Things. Last but certainly not least, I wish they would have fucking led with this thing. This is some weird shit. Did you see this?
Yes, I did, actually.
Okay, good, because this to me is like the best thing of this whole presentation. This is Cadence of Hyrule, which is a Crypt of the Necro Dancer crossover with The Legend of Zelda.
Which is fucking awesome.
Like, what in the world? Yeah, oh yeah, of course it is. It's like 100% awesome. It's just like, who could have seen this coming?
No one.
Who could have seen this coming? So you can play as Link, you can play as Zelda, and it's the whole Crypt of the Necro Dancer kind of, top-down, roguelike, to the beat type of thing, and it's going to be out in the spring. I think this looks awesome.
It looks amazing.
It just looks super fucking rad.
If you guys have not had the chance to play Crypt of the Necro Dancer, you should. It's so much fun.
Yeah. And it's out on everything. It's literally out on like every platform. Like,
absolutely.
If you've got anything that'll play a game, you probably got a thing that will play Crypt of the Necro Dancer. I think did it start as like a PlayStation 3 game or Xbox 360?
I don't remember. I played it when it was like a Steam game, I think, at one point.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but it's been out for a while.
I wonder. Here, let me look it up real fast.
Because a friend of mine showed it to me. Roberto showed it to me, and I was just like, this is amazing. I'm not good at it, but it's amazing.
Let's see. Switch, PS4, iOS, Vita, Windows.
That's right, the Vita.
Xbox One, Linux. You can get on Linux if you want. You can get on OS 10 if you're all into that. So no PS3 or 360, but for most of the current stuff. So, all right. Well, you know what? We've had a good time talking about stuff on the Switch. So now, unfortunately, Michael, it's time to have a bad time. Actually, God damn it, we are so over time already. Fuck.
There's so much stuff.
All right. So time to talk about the Epic Game Store for a little while. So last week, the Epic Game Store, it was discovered, is doing some shady shit on your computer.
Really?
Monitoring processes, like getting access to DLLs. But the thing that I feel like people are very much upset about is that if you have Steam installed on your computer, apparently the Epic Game Store will go looking in your Steam folder for your Steam friends list, grab a copy of it, encrypt it, and then copy it into the software so that if you decide then to say import my Steam friends list, it has it there to do it. Now the who was the president, CEO, Tim Sweeney, said he made full responsibility for this, and he basically said, like, we did this as a kludge when we first launched the store to try to get your friends list in there. This was never, like, expected to be our full, the way that things were going to be, but, like, yes, they are doing it. A lot of people don't like this, and a lot of it is because, now, if I'm, please, this is one of those times where, like, I don't want pedantic commenters, but as far as I understand, Epic is owned by Tencent, or at least Tencent has a controlling interest in Epic. And Tencent, of course, also has ties to the Chinese government. Because they're located in China. So, like, people are a little bit squicked out, but it's not necessarily because, like, you know, the Ubisoft launcher got your email address, right? Like, it's a little bit more than that. And then there's also supposed to be a thing where the Epic Game Store is, like, monitoring, like, if you have it open, it's monitoring, like, what programs are being launched. And some of that they said is because they want to give, like, I don't really understand their rationale. It's like something about their partner exposure program or something like that. In any case, let us say the Epic Game Store is doing some shady motherfucking shit and people do not like it. Now, they've come out this week to say, yes, we apologize for doing some shady shit. We're going to try to undo this shady shit. And yes, we are doing this shady shit, which is interesting because it ties into a thing that we are seeing recently, which is people don't like the Epic Game Store. And we've seen that happen with the Metro game. And recently, like today, we got word Epic is not fucking around. Let's put it this way. The Outer Worlds is going to be an Epic Game Store PC exclusive. All the David Cage games are going to be Epic Game Store exclusive. Control, Remedy's next game, is going to be an Epic Game Store exclusive. There's a game that's been in development for a while that is called Phoenix Point, that is like a turn-based strategy game by the guy that made XCOM. That is going to, and that was crowdfunded on Fig. And then this week there was a huge kerfuffle because they announced that, like, they were moving it from Steam to the Epic Games Store.
That's crazy.
And when they did their crowdsourcing, they said they were going to be putting it on Steam. And so what happened was that they came out and they said, we're moving it to the Epic Games Store. This is going to allow us, because of the split in the profits, the way that you get more if you're on the Epic Games Store. We're going to offer the first year of DLC for free because we're moving over here. And anybody that wants a refund for their crowdfunding can have a full refund for their crowdfund. Now, this did not apparently, like, okay, like, I understand people like Steam, they like to have all their games in one place. You don't want to have your games all 8 different libraries, right? But I feel like, okay, so that was a situation, that's what I just said, and people were, like, still like, no, fuck you, put it back on Steam. And it's like, I don't know what more could be done here. Right?
They're
Like,
literally offering you your money back.
Right. Like, because it's going to be a timed exclusive on the Epic Game Store, which means that if you get your money back, you can go buy it on the Epic Game Store, but you will not be able to have it in your Steam library for at least, I think, a year after it's been put out. And it's like, okay, so this is the point where I got to rant for a second. Like, look, I'm not a fan of installing 8 different launchers, right? I don't want Steam and GOG Galaxy and the Epic Game Store and Uplay and Origin and fucking whatever. I don't want 80 different things, mostly because they all want to launch when my computer launches. And I'm like, Origin, I only use you once a year. You need to fucking take a step back.
You need to back the fuck up.
But, like, I know that people don't like the Epic Game Store, and I know that they don't like the Tencent, the China connection, and I know that the Epic Game Store does not have the features that the Steam Store has, right? Like, it really doesn't. I got Satisfactory, the new coffee stain game, off of the store. and it had like when it was downloading, it didn't even have like a time remaining, like an estimated time remaining. And I'm just like,
that's weird.
This is some basic shit. Like it doesn't have like the community discussions and things like that. It doesn't have a lot of features, right? But I gotta tell you, I hate Steam. I fucking hate Steam now because Valve has, well, magically, Michael, Valve announced this week that they're going to be doing some revamping to the front page of Steam and to the way that it looks and the accessibility. And it's like, you know why they're doing that, right? Is because Epic is finally somebody's eating Steam's lunch, and they don't just get to sit back with a broken client. Michael, videos in Steam have never played properly for me. Like I have to let them buffer. Steam has been around for what? 10
It's been around for a long
15 years, and your video buffering service is shit. Every day when I open up Steam, the first thing I have to do is scroll past the first page of garbage. Like, I don't care about what you're recommending to me, and I don't care about Total Biscuit's recommendations. That guy's been dead for like a year.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't need your curator thing up there. Once upon a time, I tried to uncheck Show Me VR games when it was all Vive games all the time. No matter what I did, it was just like half my thing is Vive games. I didn't want to see the movies. I didn't want to see the dumb B movies that you're putting on Steam. And yet, there you go. Like, they won't refuse to curate anything and they won't do anything. And here's the thing. I'm not exactly hashtag Team Epic Game Store for life, but anything to make Steam make their platform better, because they literally have a monopoly.
Yeah.
And they've been resting on their laurels for years, literal years. It's like, you know, I feel like people are going to come up and they're going to be like, well, Steam has a really good refund policy. Well, you know why Steam has a really good refund policy is because they don't want to curate their store, so they sell garbage, and the people get mad at them if they couldn't get their money back when a game was literally broken, which has happened more than one time.
Yeah.
Do you remember Greenlight? Like,
oh, yeah.
Like, that's not even a year gone yet.
That was a thing.
Like Steam created the rating system because they didn't want to curate their store anymore, because Greenlight was letting horseshit on, because people were literally trading Greenlight keys for upvotes in scams to get their fucking horrible game. You remember that game that had a cryptocurrency miner in the background?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember last week when Steam took a game called Rape Day off their store? Like, Steam sucks asshole. Like, it's a terrible service, and the only reason I continue to use it is because I have like 400 games in their library.
Yeah.
And I don't have the rights to take those games and go wherever I want to. Like, I hate Steam. And if it takes a company like Epic stirring the pot to make Steam literally do anything to clean up their act, then I'm for that. Like, I wish that they would just do it themselves, and then I could just be like, well, we don't even need your Epic Game Store because we have a superior client. The Steam client hasn't even been, like, visually revamped in a decade and a half. It looks the same as it did when it launched.
Yeah, pretty much.
It looks like shit. It runs like shit. Tabs. Let me open up several games in tabs instead of opening each one in its own window. Like, why? What is so difficult about that? Like,
I probably lost access to that code years ago.
I mean, like, and so here's the thing. Yes, Steam is going to be revamping their UI, but they're only doing it because Epic announced that they're fucking taking AAA franchises away from Steam.
Yeah.
Like, if it wasn't for them dragging that shit away from Steam redid their monetization algorithm. Steam has had more changes in the last 6 months since the Epic Game Store came on the scene than they had in years, and it's because they're getting their lunch eaten. Like, you remember how they introduced the upvote and downvote system because they didn't want to, like, curate their own shit. So, like, well, if it gets a lot of upvotes, then we could do that. But then they had to put in the weird graph because people would start brigade downvoting, like the Metro franchise, because the new Metro game was on Epic. So they would downvote and it was like, so now you have, like, a thing there where it's, like, mostly negative, but just recently because
of news or whatever.
Yeah,
that happens a lot.
It's just, the thing is that I don't necessarily love Epic, but, like, Steam has been willing to just sit back and cash those checks, and they really haven't done that much to earn it. Like, have you ever gone into big picture mode in Steam?
No, I don't really touch Steam at all.
It's terrible. Like, they should hire a UI designer to come in and redesign the UI. Like, their whole product like looks bad compared to every other game store that's out there.
Valve got really lazy the second that this happened.
I agree.
It's crazy how lazy they got.
So again, like I said, I want to make it absolutely crystal clear that I'm not like a rah-rah epic fanboy, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to have Hades and Control in my Steam library, you know? But if this is the only way to make any kind of progress, like look at the consoles. Look at how much we've benefited from having Nintendo and Microsoft and Sony stabbing each other in the dick every chance they get. Like we wouldn't have if it wasn't for Sony and the PlayStation 4 launch making such a big deal out of Microsoft's always online thing, they would have just waltzed through, right?
Yeah.
They would never have changed if Sony hadn't have been punching them in the asshole literally in their E3 press conference.
It was pretty amazing.
Like flipping them the bird from the next conference over.
All they do is talk shit about each other, and it's amazing.
Like you remember when Xbox Live was just $50 a year so that you could play games online, and there was nothing else that you got? Or remember when Xbox Live was $50 a year, and if you didn't have Xbox Live, you couldn't play demos?
You couldn't watch Netflix.
You couldn't watch Netflix?
That was ridiculous.
Remember that? And you remember how now it's like you get a bunch of free games? Like you get Hitman and Bloodborne and like fucking good games? Or how Xbox Game Pass came from these two competing with each other? You know, like if it wasn't for competition, these companies will never, like they want the most money that they can get, so they're never going to do it out of the goodness of their hearts.
No.
They're going to do it because they're trying to make their service look better than their competitor, and up until now, Steam has not had a competitor. And please do not tell me about GOG Galaxy. Please don't even bring that shit up.
No.
It's a launcher for fucking DOS games, man.
I literally forgot about that until you said that.
Or Origin. I mean, you know, what was the last game that was only available on Origin Store? Oh, also The Sinking City, which people forgot about. I didn't forget, though, which that was a big Skyrim mod that they're making into a single-player thing.
Neat.
So, we're way behind. All right, let's kick it into high gear. Let's just do these pretty briefly. BioWare put out a letter saying, hey, we're hearing you. Last week we had the news that, like, with Anthem, they did that patch and, like, all the drop rates went up severely because it was a bug in the patch, and then they patched that bug out, and then people were like, hey, put the bug back. And last week, I guess I tried to make a little bit of a case on here that's like, you can't just leave a bug. You can't. So what they did was they patched the bug out, and then this week they turned up the server drop rate for loot, and now the loot drop rate is better in Anthem. So, like, you know, just a little bit of calm.
Yes.
Like, there's actually a Reddit thread that was all about, like, one of the community managers saying, like, hi, listen, so you know why the devs won't talk to you anymore? It's not because they're hiding something. It's because you're mean to them. And if you're mean to them, then they're just going to go do their work and not hang out on Reddit and talk to you. And, like, when you ask me, like, when are you going to revamp the end game of BioWare? I'm the community manager. They're talking about these things. I can't answer that question, which is why I don't answer, not because there is a grand conspiracy. Like, I'll answer the things that you could ask me that I have an answer for. But if there's people that are literally going over, like, tables and trying to figure out the roadmap, then, like, I can't answer that question on Reddit.
They finally snapped. Like, stop it. Stop it.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't know. It was just, you know, like, part of it is one of the things with Anthem, and I feel like it's one of the things with a lot of games, right? Is that you see this attitude a lot, and it's not just with Anthem. It's with everything. It's with No Man's Sky. It's with Fallout 76. With every failed Battlefield 2, every failed live launch service game, right? Is that when people see a problem, they want it fixed immediately.
Yeah.
Like, in 5 minutes after I've reported this, I want it fixed. And a lot of times it's like, well, if that problem is based in a bunch of other things, then you can't change it without affecting a bunch of other things, which may need to go through a very long QA test, or may affect your roadmap for the future. Or, like, let's just say that your game isn't as fun as you want it to be. Well, then it's like you have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what are the next 6 months are going to look like.
Yeah.
And that's not something that happens in, like, a week. That's something that takes like a month to do.
That's the thing about bugs. Also, is like you fix a bug, another one tends to appear. It's hard.
A lot of times it's also very difficult to find bugs unless they're out in the wild, unless your updates are out in the wild, because you have 8 people working in QA as opposed to like several thousand people playing your game for 8 hours a day.
And doing the weirdest possible shit to accidentally break your game.
Yes. So, again, somebody was fucking throwing shade at me on YouTube about like, what did they say? I'm starting to question your taste in games because I keep saying nice things about Anthem.
That was one of the Division ones. And I was just like, eh.
And I was like, okay, all right then. I still like it. Guess what? I loaded up Anthem today, and I put the game on hard, and I went out and just screwed on free play mode, and I got a few purples within like 40 minutes. So it seems like the drop rate is up, Like,
they're both perfectly fine games.
Here's the thing. I think Division 2 is garbage. Like, it's like, I'm going to shoot these guys so I can get a gun, so I can shoot these guys so I can get guns, so I can shoot these guys so I can get guns, so I can shoot these guys, so I can get more guns, so I can shoot these guys. It's like, but why? It's like, don't worry about why. Shoot them. Like, these guys in the post-apocalypse and their ski masks have taken over this abandoned crane. Why? What does that get them? Do they get food?
They get a crane.
They got a crane. What are you going to do with a crane in the apocalypse? Why don't you go, like, the entire world seems full of empty buildings. Why are you guys living in a burned out, like, construction site? Live in the buildings. Like, with the windows and roofs and shit, instead of
making meth kitchens out of them.
Under tarps? Like, yeah. And why are you making meth? Are you selling it? Who's buying it?
I don't know.
What do they use for currency? I'm not going down this road.
They use
again.
meth for currency, apparently.
I'm not going down this road for currency. Well, yeah, but how do you sell meth for meth? I'll sell you this meth for 2 meths, please.
Exactly. They're flooding the market.
Any case, let's go over all our normal offenders. Apparently, Red Dead Redemption is making some changes this spring to make the game fun at all? ?
Yeah.
I played that game for an hour on Monday. It was boring as shit because there's nothing to do but like engage in bad Rockstar death matches.
Sounds about right.
And they're like, I think that I read this roadmap where they were like, yeah, now people can fish and ride their horse in peace. And I'm like, is that all there is to do in your game if you're not shooting people or harassing other people? Is like fish?
Apparently that's all my brother does with Red Dead, which caught me off guard. He's like, yeah, all I do is fish. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I do not understand at all. And hey, not Fallout 76 news, but Bethesda has announced that they are having a showcase at E3, considering that neither Sony nor EA are having one.
Yeah.
This is refreshing. It's going to be a real fucking lean E3 this year, man.
Yeah. It's going to be actually a pretty interesting E3 this year because of it.
Yep. So yeah. Let's look at some trailers. Showdown is back. System Shock 3, we got a teaser for that at GDC. This is by Night Dive. I'm starting to wonder, though, whether I really am interested in continuing to play System Shock. I guess it depends on how good the game is, but Night Dive is such a small studio that's mainly known for remastering stuff.
Yeah.
That, like, I really want a System Shock game to be, like, real smart and real clever, and I don't entirely know whether that's going to be a thing, but
only time will tell.
It looks pretty good. I mean, for a Unity game, it looks pretty decent. It's very moody. Let's see. We also saw we got a full-on 3-minute like gameplay trailer for the Firestorm mode in Battlefield 5, the Battle Royale mode.
It looks fun.
I mean, for a Battle Royale mode, it looks pretty fun. I think it would have been even better if it had launched with the game.
Yeah, it definitely would have been better if it launched with the game.
Like,
that definitely would have been a good thing.
Still kind of hard to believe that, like, not a year, but not 6 months,
It's
maybe?
been a while since Part 5 came out.
It's been a bit. I mean, the biggest things that I see here are they're using the battlefield destructibility. It seems like they've got a lot more vehicles than most of the Battle Royale games have.
Yeah, it's supposed to be massive as well, this map. And I couldn't help but laugh at the fact that the trailer is like, this is an awesome thing you can do, but it can also be a bad thing. And like, I couldn't stop thinking of Homer going, that's good, and then that's bad.
Oh, yeah. I kind of have a feeling that people who get tanks are going to win.
Probably. But I have a good feeling about that tractor.
Yeah, just run that tractor right into a tank.
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, it looks all right. Like, I'm I think I've kind of sworn my allegiance to Apex Legends, and I'm not willing to go to the other EA Battle Royale game. That's the other thing that's weird, is that Apex Legends is doing very well. In fact, can we just hold on this for just a moment? That last time Respawn put out a game, a multiplayer shooter,
oh shit,
EA slit their throats by putting out a bigger multiplayer shooter right around the corner, and now Respawn has finally rebounded from Titanfall 2 and created a really interesting Battle Royale game, and EA is going to slit their throats with the Battlefield 5 Battle Royale game. Maybe not. Maybe
Wasn't
not.
it Battlefield that did it to them last time?
Battlefield 1.
Yeah.
Battlefield 1 was the game that, yep. So.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Good. Let's see. There was a Kotal Khan reveal trailer for Mortal Kombat, which should have been called the Jackie Briggs reveal trailer, considering that Kotal Khan gets his ass handed to him by Jackie Briggs the entire time. Which kind of sucks because Kotal Khan is more interesting to me from a character design standpoint than Jackie Briggs is. I don't know.
It's mostly because he's a new character and with a more interesting design, because he's not just
a person
one of the
in
combat
armor.
kids.
Yeah. The combat kids at least it seems like, I feel like I've seen a lot of like thumbnails and some of the stuff where it seems like Cassie Cage seems like she's at least inheriting a little bit of her father's asshole attitude.
Yeah.
Whereas Jackie Briggs just give her the arms, give her the big metal arms, man. Or I don't know. I mean, she's just like, there's so many flamboyant and good designs in Mortal Kombat, and hers just seems very dull.
She looks like she would be in an Anthem as a character in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. On the other hand, we saw that move that Kotal Khan had where he literally hits the person with the giant sword and then saws it back and forth in their
which is
abdomen.
Really cool. Also, he turns into a tiger.
Yep.
Apparently, which I don't remember from the first one.
I don't remember that either. He's using the sunlight thing to burn people instead of having the weird, like, hey, you'll heal yourself if you can stand in this very small area.
Right.
So anyway, but I mean, Mortal Kombat 11 is still real high on my list. We only got next week the beta, the pre-order beta is going to be out. So I think we'll be playing that with John probably next week. But
Fatality.
Hitman 2 is finally getting some new content. The Hun 2 port trailer, which is another sniper map. I prefer the actual levels, but hey, you know what? More Hitman's more Hitman, and I like Hitman 2.
Plus, the sniper things are actually kind of fun.
Yeah, the fact that they're not just like they're more than just like a sniper level. That there's some like stuff going on. Yeah, I always like hanging out and doing stuff on these sniper maps. This one's like a port, and apparently there's like hostages, and you have to rescue them. There's a new gun. That's coming out on the 26th, and you can bet your fucking bippy that if I can, there's no way I won't have beaten Sekiro by next Friday. So,
probably not,
we'll be checking that out. And you know what? I'm skipping everything else because we're way over time. So, last but not least, a few quick things. Control, we talked about it being on the Epic Game Store. It is, but it also has a specific release date now, August 27th, which is a while to wait, but that I guess means that we're probably going to see it again at E3. I can't wait for this game. Like,
I'm really excited because I really like Remedy a lot. Actually, they've come out with some of my favorite games.
Yeah. Speaking of game companies that are not thrilling me, Konami is repackaging a bunch of shit. They're putting out the Castlevania collection.
I'm happy about the Castlevania collection, though.
Really?
So because I like Castlevania.
All right,
it's a great series.
Contra collection.
Also it has all the Belmont ones, and it makes me kind of happy.
The arcade collection. I don't know. I mean, like, we're not going to dwell too much on this one particular thing, but I have a Raspberry Pi, and so these. Yeah, okay. Let's not dwell too much on that fact. The Kill la Kill game is also getting a release date, July 26th. It's going to be released.
Oh, sweet.
In the U.S. And then, last but certainly not least, last week we had a story where 343 announced that the Master Chief Collection was coming to PC.
Yes.
And people started sending them pizzas to their office and didn't stop sending them pizzas to their office. Way too many pizzas for any one person or even group of people to eat.
Yeah.
So this week they celebrated by putting out a skin for one of the guns in Halo that's just a bunch of pepperoni pizza. Like,
good for them.
It's awesome. So, yeah, you can log in and download that whenever you like. Yeah, that's it. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to answer some questions, so stick around. As you said, Michael, we are cutting it close. We got 1 more hour. I got an hour and 15 minutes until Sekiro unlocks. So that means we got 1 hour to do questions. Our first question, mailer@insight.com's email address. And our first question this week comes in from Lozvamp, who says, hi. I've been a big fan for years. Cocaine Princess till I die. I'd seriously like to thank you, though, Jeff, as I received a traumatic brain injury 3 years ago, and you guys kept me uplifted during 2 years stuck in bed whilst I relearned basic skills. Oh, well, good.
Oh, cool.
Thank you. Still love games, however, and was wondering if you could advise of any adaptations I could make that would help me carry on with this. I mainly struggle with perception, reflexes, and fine motor skills. I find games like RDR2 okay as the auto-aim helps, as do games with easy modes. Praise Doncles, and that's from Lozvamp. So this question actually came in last week, and I meant to read it, and then I got frazzled.
Okay.
Not by the question, but just by the podcast and life in general.
Okay.
So the thing is that I feel like it's weird because this has got to be especially challenging, right? Because games don't exactly advertise that they have like an auto aim function,
It's a tough one.
or what kind of easy mode they have until you end up getting them and then getting them. So, Lozvamp, I would say that if obviously the first thing that I would recommend is like have you given JRPGs a try? Because Persona 5 doesn't require reflexes.
Not really. Well, it has some, but not a whole lot.
Yeah.
Like the Super Mario games, I think would be good that way too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess South Park has those the context-sensitive things that you have to hit, so that might be a little bit difficult. But a lot of JRPGs are just straight up turn-based, right? Like Persona games are just straight up.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to have reflexes to play those games, or strategy games like XCOM or Wargroove or things like that, where you don't necessarily need to have
Mario Rabbids.
Yeah, Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle is a good one for that. From your example from Red Dead, I assume that you like kind of third-person action stuff. If that's the case, that does make things a little bit more difficult. I mean, I think I think that mostly what you've got is going to be working on easy mode.
Yeah.
And making sure the game has auto aim. There's maybe a couple things I could think of, depending on how your hands work. I mean, obviously, you have hands and they work, but if you're having difficulty with kind of twitchy stuff, then remapping controls, obviously, if your thumbs, if maybe your index and fingers are better than your thumbs, I can think of games where you might want to just get into the habit of remapping stuff to the shoulder buttons, or vice versa if your thumbs work better.
Yeah.
I can even see going in and starting to learn how to play games, because in a lot of ways your brain will eventually, you have to teach your brain. I remember when I went from first off, I remember learning how to play FPSs on a controller.
Oh, okay.
And then going from inverted to uninverted controls. Your brain will learn how to remap that stuff. It's just that you have to do it for a while, as it's awkward.
Oh, okay.
So let's say maybe your index fingers aren't as good at that stuff, at hitting the shoulder buttons. Maybe remapping a lot of the stuff from the index, from the shoulder buttons to the D-pad, so you're literally dealing with two D-pads instead. And it may feel really awkward at first, but it might be the sort of thing where you can really get used to it over time. First-person shooters are probably going to be the hardest thing, right? Because they're so twitchy and require such split-second.
It depends though, because some do have a kind of an auto, or not an auto aim, but an aim assist. The Call of Duty games have aim assists for their, and you can definitely play their single players on their easy difficulty, that kind of way. I
mean, obviously, this is a pretty extreme thing, but Microsoft has that accessibility controller that they have now.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like it's like the two big pads, and then you've got a lot of different attachments that you can put on it, and then you can kind of remap everything. And that you can actually remap through I think you can remap that through the actual system software, so that it doesn't matter, right? Like it doesn't matter if the game has a thing, you can remap it through there. And so they have like these much bigger pads that are easier to hit. So if you're talking about, fine motor skills, like having a larger button to deal with, a lot of it I think is just going to be finding out a thing that feels good for you and then sticking with it, because the longer you use a specific control setup, the more it gets ingrained in your muscle memory.
Yeah.
And then the more you're able to just, it becomes automatic. The other thing that I find, it's funny, I was kind of thinking about this when I was playing Bloodborne, because Sekiro wasn't out and I needed my fix, so I needed the Demerol. Is that like one of the things that I feel like a lot of people have problems with in, it's funny. Okay, stick with me here. This is a weird one. But like Souls might actually be a good game for you to try, because the thing with Souls is that, generally speaking, I feel like there's a point where in a lot of video games where you get over this difficulty hump where you're not reacting so much as you are executing on what you know you need to do, right? So when it comes to Bloodborne, I'm not the best person in the world of Bloodborne, but I feel like I jammed through Bloodborne, and one of the reasons for that is that I know how each enemy attacks, and so I know what to do in order to counter that attack. And I've done that so many times that it's just like built into my brain, is that I know when the person winds up, they're getting ready to do the attack. And so I know to hit to shoot the gun. And then that puts them into the state where you can go in and you can do a vital attack on them. And so I guess the major thing is just you have to get over the frustration, I suppose, with not being able to make a lot of forward progress, because once you don't have you remember Guitar Hero, right? You remember like Rock Band and stuff. And like there was a time when you're playing on like expert where you're not reacting. You know which notes are coming, and like I need to move my hand, or I get ready because this is going to be like linked notes that I can do with the power. What do they call that?
I don't really play it that much.
Power on chords or whatever. But like I don't know, with any video game, I feel like there's a point where you stop reacting. With some video games, and that's why I was thinking Souls might actually not be a bad idea, is because the thing with Souls is that Souls never changes, right? Like it's always the same group of enemies.
Oh yeah.
So you can develop strategies to deal with these enemies, because you get killed, but now you know that like there's a guy around that corner. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to shoot an arrow, or I'm going to roll through that corner or something like that, as opposed to a game like, say, Call of Duty or even Red Dead, where you can't plan as much in Red Dead because there's so much chaos, right? Is that maybe what you should be looking for are games that have a little bit less chaos and a little bit more deliberate, like enemy placement.
Yeah, I feel like character action games would be good for that sort of thing then.
It's kind of like Devil May Cry.
Like the Devil May Cry, Bayonetta's, the first 3 God of Wars.
Bayonetta would be great because Bayonetta has that like one hand mode, right?
Yeah.
Like, I guess people jerk off mode, right?
Yeah, I guess you could say it.
If you want to jerk off to Bayonetta punching somebody in the face a bunch of times,
then good for you, buddy.
I guess.
Good for you. The internet's there for you too.
Yeah. But maybe that's the whole thing, is to try to find games that are a little bit more
beat 'em up games. I think would be a lot.
You know
of
what
fun.
might be good is Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Actually, yeah,
because it's very much like in time with the music. So you like kind of get used to.
It's really cool.
Yeah, to going along with that. But I mean, I think that if the sort of thing, there are so many good strategy games out there. There's so many good RPGs. A lot of them I don't even put on the dojo because there's just so many of them that are so slow. But like they just re-released this year, the first Tales of Vesperia got a re-release. Like Matt and I played that Caligula Overdose game that was like kind of a Persona Light, type of game. But there's a lot of strategy games out there that I feel like.
Oh, visual novels I think are good too.
Oh yeah, visual novels.
Like the Phoenix Wright. I know they're re-releasing Phoenix Wright on consoles soon.
Mm-hmm. Or even if you're kind of teaching yourself kind of how to move again. Things like walking simulators might be really good.
Yeah.
Or even I was thinking about like the original BioShock, because you can set up like traps. You can control the battlefield in some ways.
Plus, death has like no meaning in BioShock.
That's true. Also, you can just die as many times as you want to in BioShock. It doesn't really fucking matter. Doesn't matter to me. I still like that game.
The game's great.
Or even stuff like maybe like Deus Ex, where you have ways around combat, right? Where you don't necessarily have to get into a twitchy combat. Hitman would be great for that, because like Hitman doesn't. I mean, like if you're playing Hitman right, you are not pulling out a gun and mowing down a bunch of people. You're like, slipping into the back of this place and then going around.
I think all the Ezio Assassin's Creed games are pretty good about that.
Maybe I often wonder about the way that the combat in those is so reactive, though, that
it's a lot of just like hitting one button, though.
Yeah.
Counter.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on if you're able to figure that out. I don't
remember when Brotherhood's like, you have to run away. I'm like, do I? And I was just surrounded by dead guys, and it took me like half an hour to loot them because I killed them all.
I guess it's just, look at stuff like I don't think God of War would be very good. Like the last year's God of War.
That's why I said the first 3.
Yeah.
Because those are normal character action games, whereas 4 is not really like that.
They're pretty twitchy, though. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. Give those a shot. Let us know how it goes. I'd be interested to know. Let's see. This next one comes in from Vova. This one's actually about the Epic Game Store, but not specifically about that. So
neat.
Vova says, Dear Jeff and Michael, hope you're doing well. Recently read an article that got me concerned about the Epic Store and its practices. Just the article, the Epic Store client was copying a Steam user data file, making a locally encrypted version of the file, does nothing with it unless you opt to import your Steam friends, at which point it sends some of that file information to Epic servers, all without informing Valve or asking users for permission to access that file, which is a privacy breach if you ask me. While the Epic versus Valve is a long debate, my question is different. With the recent microtransactions controversy in many countries these past 1 to 2 years, do you think governments are more and more likely to try to regulate not only game developers but the game store platforms as well? We're seeing them try to regulate Facebook and its practices. Thank you for being awesome and making so much freaking awesome videos and podcasts. Hugs, loyal fan and patron, and that's from Vova.
That's a tough one, because it really, a lot of times government doesn't try to do something unless there's a lot of extremes going on in it.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, when EA fucked up with their Star Wars Battlefront 2 thing.
Yep.
The extremes were so high on that some governments finally started paying attention to loot boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with any other thing. It's like the fact that the ESRB was made to keep the government from trying to regulate games because of the extreme that happened where Mortal Kombat was covered in blood kind of thing. And so it's really like, it's a reactionary thing. Like the Comic Book Court Authority, essentially. It was a reactionary thing to something that was an extreme reaction. So it's just, it can happen, but the game industry has been pretty good about trying to police itself as hard as it possibly can to keep that from happening. But eventually, it might just break.
I don't know that I would completely agree with the whole game industry trying to police itself. It's that I feel like,
well, enough to keep the government off their backs is what I mean.
Here's what I think would happen. I think that other countries will end up regulating this shit. Like Belgium has already said you can't have loot boxes in your game, right? I think that other countries will attempt to regulate this shit as it gets more and more egregious. I do not believe that the United States of America will take any steps to regulate this because, like, we have to we are specifically having to foray into governments and politics to talk about this, right?
Yeah.
But I do not feel like the United States government gives two shits whether or not EA takes all your money. Like, we live in a very, very capitalist system that, like, and the fact that video games, I mean, okay, let's put it this way. He talks about trying to regulate Facebook, right? You guys watched those hearings where the senators were asking Mark Facebook about Facebook, and he was just like, yes, it already does all of those things that you're saying. And he's like, but Facebook, and he's like, yes, I do own Facebook, and it's like came off as so bad of a robot man, and then they came off as just like old men who don't know anything about anything.
My favorite was that dude asking about his iPhone or something.
Yep.
And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. So the problem that I have here is that, okay, listen, if there was such a thing as a reasonable government intervention into what happens with video games, this is the problem, right? Is that so far the record in the United States of legislating video games to make them quote unquote safer or more friendly or whatnot has been bad.
Yeah.
Like, remember that guy in California? Was it Leland Yu who wanted to like make it a felony to sell an M-rated game to a kid, and then it turns out that he was embroiled in some kind of like weapons dealing
that's
thing.
right. I forgot about that guy. I was thinking of that lawyer dude. You remember
Jack Thompson?
Jack Thompson?
Fuck yeah.
That was a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
He got disbarred eventually from doing the weirdest fucking thing.
Yep.
He gave like a judge gave porn in the middle of a trial or something. It was fucking weird.
It's interesting, and not to go too far out on a limb, but I was talking with my dad about this the other day. I talked with him about politics because he's like, I don't really talk with most people about politics because it's just. But I was like, you know how in a lot of ways the right, I'm just going to say the right, has become like very much an advocate for like free speech, video games, don't censor our art, don't censor it, it's uncensored, free speech, right? And I'm like, yeah, but I remember you motherfuckers back in the 90s when you were all like full of religion and God and like, what is this sin of blood and titties in video games? The children. Won't somebody think of the children?
Yeah.
And it was like, and it only kind of became a thing once like the idea of taking questionable content out of games somehow shifted from evangelicals to like culture war SJW. I don't even like the term SJW, but like,
I don't know what's happening anymore with it, to be honest.
Yeah, like suddenly the media criticism of video games went from like religious people saying it was filth to like Anita Sarkeesian saying it was filth, and then suddenly the right was very much like, no, more titties in video games, put hatred on every platform. And I was like,
very strange.
Guys, I've watched the Fox News segments where you brought Jack Thompson on to talk about hot coffee and how our children are going to be destroyed by Grand Theft Auto polygons slamming their genitals into each other and blocky titties on the screen. And
I remember when the Mass Effect thing happened.
Oh yeah,
that was fucking train wreck.
Oh man, when you could be gay and have titties in a video game,
so fucking funny.
I thought their heads were going to explode. They were so up in arms, and guess what? Nothing happened.
Yeah,
the world is. We're not. I've never even seen weird Mass Effect porno. No, that's not true. I have seen weird Mass Effect porno.
I was like, where are you going with that?
No. But like, so
I've been on the internet.
Here's the thing is that I don't think they'll be able to bring themselves to regulate video games in any meaningful way because what you're talking about, Vova, is like the last thing on the culture scare list of video games. It's like, these violent video games are turning children into mass murderers. Except they're not. It's like, these violent video games are turning our children into sex-crazed gays. And it's like, but they're not. And then like way down at like item number 15 is like, my kid spent too much on Angry Birds. And it's like, well, fuck you and your kid. Like, nobody cares about that. Why did you let your kid spend any amount of money on Angry Birds, idiot?
Yeah, they're like jokes. Like there's I think Jack Black talked about that like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
he was on like the Tonight Show or something, and he talks about how his son spent like $2,000 on Angry Birds somehow, and everyone laughed, and then we all moved on.
Right. So like, I don't think that people very much. I think that what you're seeing is, I don't think you're going to be able to get the government involved because one, the government moves real slow, and two, I think that most of them still think that video games are for babies. I think that's changing.
That's true. As
we see younger people like, listen, guys, I'm not trying to invoke things, but like, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was on that live stream of H-Bomber guy playing the Donkey Kong thing, and that was like news for some reason. It's like, a senator went on a live stream. And
it blows everyone's mind because normally a senator is like 1,000,000 years old and thinks we play Pong still.
Yeah. Of course, everything about that lady, people either love her or hate her.
There's no middle ground.
And I'm just kind of like, I don't know, whatever. But it's like, she took a an Uber from the train station when she was advocating for public transit. She didn't walk 2 blocks. And I was like, I'm sorry, what the fuck is going on here?
They criticize her for everything. It's ridiculous.
In any case, I think that if they're going to come down on something, if the government comes down on something with video games, it's going to be, look at the violence. It's not going to be, look at the capitalism. Like, look at, because but on the other hand, I think that gamers are finally starting to become cynical enough to be like, does your game have loot boxes in it? Well, then I don't like it very much. And it doesn't matter. The rest of it doesn't matter. I just don't like it as much if it's got microtransactions in it. And that, you're starting to see some developers tout that their game doesn't have any microtransactions in it, right? Like,
it's now a selling point.
Yeah. Or that, or that the DLC, we didn't take any DLC out of our game. We're making brand new content, but this is a full and complete game,
Yeah.
Hell, I was never really, I understood where people were coming from, but I was never really able to get as outraged about, remember on-disc DLC? How that was such a big thing?
Yeah, that was a massive thing.
Yeah.
It was the worst because Capcom was the worst about it.
Yeah.
Like all the Marvel vs. Capcom outfits were on the disc. All of the Street Fighter Cross Tekken DLC characters are on that disc.
Mm-hmm.
They just kept fucking... God, they were so fucking stupid about it, too.
I have not forgotten that Capcom is shitty. Like, they're doing all right now. Devil May Cry 5 is okay, and, I like the Resident Evil remakes.
Like, the DLC costume, whenever you bought one, it was like you got... It wasn't like a download of the costumes. It was this little... Like almost, it was like a kilobyte amount of data. So it was just a key essentially that unlocked everything. Yeah. It was bad. It was really fucking bad. And every time they're like, "Well, no, that's not really on the disc." Somebody would hack the disc to let them use those things. Yeah, it's just to fucking flick them off.
Besides, Vova, to be honest with you, I think that, again, we've strayed a little bit into politics, and I try not to generally talk about them because it's just so hard to escape them. But on the other hand, it's part of our life, right?
True.
Like it's one of those things where sometimes you have to really bend over backwards in a weird way to not talk about it at all. Like, especially with this question being about the government. But I honestly feel like people are so riled up about so many other things that video games are just way down on the list. Like,
it very much is. And every time it pops up in legislation, it's usually about violence.
Right.
That's what it is.
Like, I would say that you could maybe even make a case for protect the children, but I feel like, God, fucking help me for even saying these words in the podcast. But the vaccine thing is probably higher in people's minds than I feel like video games have kind of faded back a little bit because people are so mad about so many other things that video games are way down on the list of. Not of gamers. Gamers obviously care more about video games than anything else. But regular old people, Yeah,
it came up again. On the Battlefront 2 thing. A guy in Hawaii was going to try to bring it up, and then nothing ever happened with it.
Oh yeah,
and then it died down again. Exactly, because people got more angry about other things.
Yeah, I don't think they'll try to regulate it. Now, I do think that Europe's a lot more in fact, I think there's certain European countries where it's you have to be able to return stuff because we have consumer advocacy laws in this country, and you can't just be nah, bro, I don't want to do that.
That's why most terms and conditions, in PlayStation, all those things say we won't give you a refund unless we legally have to.
Yeah. So,
and even then, we will try our damnedest not to. Yeah. I might as well say that at the end.
What's funny, though, Vova, is I'm going to go back to a thing that I've said for a long time, is as far as I'm concerned, one of the ways that we could totally and completely clean up the video game industry is demanding that every platform accept returns.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that if EA sells Anthem and it's bad, and we can take our copy of Anthem back to Best Buy and be give me back my $60, then and then if Best Buy is EA, give us back the $40 that we gave you for these copies of Anthem. Yeah. It would be different if a company had to really face the backlash. Because right now I feel it's this sort of thing where it's once you've bought it, you're fucked. Right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
On Steam, no. right? Steam has some things, but on consoles, and especially with physical copies, once you bought it, you're fucked. You're done. Like, you can't take that back. Like, maybe some places will take it back for store credit, but I feel from the bottom of my heart that stores should take back copies of video games within, I don't know, 10 days for a full refund, opened, as long as the disc itself is not damaged. And that, yes, people will buy games, beat them, and then take them back. But you know what? The best games out there, people will keep those motherfuckers.
Yeah.
And this is like when they put the really horrible, like when they put de novo on Steam games to keep pirates from happening. And it's like, well, it doesn't stop the pirates, but it does make the net code of your game worse.
Yeah.
And it does make it makes the game run poorly, and pirates don't give a fuck. But you're like, well, we got to stop the pirates. And it's like, guys, it's never been about, the pirates are not going to buy your games, even if they, I mean, yeah. The pirates
they're
are
more
not
willing
gonna,
to buy your games if you try to not stop them.
Right. You know. In fact, I know people, my impression of it is that more people get mad that like the new Sonic game has de novo, and so they pirate it as a way to like
that's the thing.
Like register their displeasure.
Most people pirate a game because those people came up with ways of getting past those things, so the
Yes.
game runs better.
Yes. I even have games that I've legitimately purchased that I then run cracks on to be like, stop checking with the server. Hell, we all remember, right, that Games for Windows Live is broken. Like, it doesn't exist anymore, and so
work.
a bunch of games are fucked up because of that. So, anyway. Let's see. Vanish Knight writes in another kind of industry question. Says, hello, Jeff and Michael. In general, the cap that customers will pay for video games is $60. Has remained that way for the last decade. If the cost of video game development has gone up and the price of games has remained the same, then what can publishers do to convince gamers to pay more for games? If publishers can't convince gamers to pay more, then should publishers continue with microtransactions to compensate for the cost of increased development? Could video game development in the U.S. be in jeopardy and be sent out of the country for cheaper development? It already is. For all the best, and that's from Vanish Knight. First off, there's a lot of outsourcing, especially for
That happens all the time.
annualized games, because they just have to make assets so fast. It's cheaper to have an outsourced company make bad assets and then fix them than to build them up from scratch.
Or just release FIFA the way it is.
Or do like Konami Capcom appears to be using that Resident Evil engine and then just like building like 70% new assets for each game, and I feel like eventually they're just going to have enough that they can just be like, we'll do whatever now. Bionic Commando, beep, boop, boop. There you go. We got it. We already had all the bottles and cans and like newspapers that flap around and girders.
They're going to be so well connected, you could just grab characters from other games and put them in other games, and I would buy it so quickly.
You know what? I don't know that you and I have ever talked at length about this. I've talked with other people, but like, what do you think about the idea? What do you think about the idea that games cost more than $60 to develop, and so they must have microtransactions to make up for the development cost?
The thing is that I somewhat get it depending on how big that game is.
Yeah.
Like Grand Theft Auto, it's like as much as I hate the whole microtransactions to fuck in, on their online mode, it's made back. They spent so much fucking money on that thing that at that point it kind of made sense for that to happen. But there's certain things where it's like the DLC helps with that just as well. And we're at the point where we are already willing to spend that much money. That's the whole point of the Ultimate Editions and the Legendary Editions.
Yep.
We are willing to spend more for a game if we get its DLC with it, because that's technically what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. So for me, I think that what this question has been asked in a couple of different ways for me for the years, and my answer always comes down to the same thing: is that like there's a calculus that you have to do in business, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, this game costs so much to make that we would technically need to pay. We need to charge more than $60 to make any money on it. Okay, that's fine. That's your side of the business. But there's another side of the business that I feel like people forget about, and that is, what will the market bear?
Yeah.
Like, if people aren't making enough money in their daily lives to be able to dump $100 on a video game, then you can make a video game that costs $100 and you can put that video game on the shelf. And to me, it's not necessarily a question of like, will gamers spend $100? It's
how many of them?
No, it's a marketing question. It's like a business school question. okay, let me put it this way. Let's say
economics.
Let's say that the Baconator costs $14 to make. Are you going to buy a Baconator for $14?
We want to make a profit though if you did it that way.
Well, no, but like, would you, the consumer, buy a $14 Baconator? Like,
depends how good that Baconator is.
Exactly. So if you felt that the Baconator was good enough to spend $14 on, you would spend $14 on it. If you felt that the game was good enough to spend $80 on, you would spend $80 on it. John has been telling me, and I'm probably going to do the same, that he pre-ordered the Legendary Edition of Mortal Kombat because Neversoft's DLC has been so good. Or not Neversoft.
Yeah, it's a different company.
NetherRealm. That their DLC has been so good that I know I'm going to want it, and so I'm willing to buy the expanded edition.
Yeah, I bought the Legendary Injustice 2 for that exact reason.
Yeah, you've proven that your DLC is good. Now, however, the $80 version of Resident Evil 2 came with like 2 throwback skins and some dumb shit, like some extra bullets or something, and it's
like that.
Well, I don't know about that. So I think that the question here is, if a game is worth more than $60, will people spend more than $60? And if it's not, and this is the other part that I don't like because it never gets talked about, if a game is not worth more than $60, then you need to spend less money making your game. Like, if you can't make the game, if the game is going to technically cost more than $60 per unit, then you maybe need to consider whether you need to make a different game that costs less than $60 per unit. Because not every game costs $60. I'm looking at my cross-media bar right here. I got Wizard of Legend was $20. Anthem was $60, but like Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon that came out this week was like $50. And then there's like $40 for this or $20 for that. Like, games don't necessarily have to cost $60. And the idea that like, and then there's this idea that's out there that where AAA game companies are like, well, gamers have got to have the latest, greatest, and the best looking game. And it's like, but that's just not true.
Well, it's the same issue that's going on with movies right now, where the middle ground doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Everybody's either you go big or you go indie.
Right.
Kind of thing. There's the mid ground doesn't really exist anymore for anybody. Like, there's no such thing as just like a couple $1 million movies or a couple $1 million games. Everything's either a half a mil or fucking like Grand Theft Auto 5 level almost.
Yeah. I fuck look at Star Citizen, for God's sake.
Yeah,
Jesus,
holy fuck.
They pulled it. So,
they're doing both and it's hysterical.
Honestly, it's like, to me, it comes down to a thing where I don't think it's the responsibility of the consumer to shoulder the, like, again, okay, let me put this in a thesis statement. If you can't make money selling games for $60 and people refuse to pay more than $60 for video games, then you need to make games that cost less to develop in order to make a profit, right? It's not incumbent on the consumer to shoulder the financial burden that you have artificially created by having to bring in, a shitload of Hollywood actors to do facial capture when you could have just gone out and hired fucking Nolan North. What is he, $20 in a bag of Taco Bell? Like, get Nolan North up in there. Like, he'll do it, Like, there are people out there that'll do this stuff. Every time I see a game, remember how Dishonored had like, it's like Carrie Fisher and a bunch of like
something like that.
And it was just like, why? I mean, like, I didn't even realize it until the end credits, and I was like, what? Why? Or the way that this is a different thing, but the thing is that if you can't make a profit selling your game for $60 and the market will not bear you raising the cost of that game to $80, then you need to make a fucking cheaper game. And that's all there is to it. Like, loading it up with all this bullshit where we're paying for it and then we continue to pay for it over the long term. I think we're coming, I mean, that was the last question, right? Is that gamers are getting tired of this shit because we can see the guy behind the curtain, right?
Yeah.
We can see that, like, you chopped up the game and you took out half the story. You made the game have to be on the world's greatest 4K asset engine. You made it have to look so fucking detailed that you had to hire a bunch of people in China to make all the bugs, the literal insects in your game because,
Yeah.
Like, whereas there are plenty of games out there that are fine as is. That Blaster Master we talked about in the first one.
Absolutely.
Looks like it's made by like 12 people who know how to make video games, you know? Or some of the one-man projects like Obra Dinn, you know, was made by one guy. Like, please don't tell me.
Undertale's doing great, and it's made by one guy.
Yeah, so many of the games that we love are made by very small teams.
Like Castle Crashers is one of my favorite games. That's, you know, hitting its 10-year. That was made by like a handful of guys.
Yeah. Aren't they making an HD, like a remaster?
Yeah, they're re-releasing it again for PS4 and Switch.
So, like, yeah, don't tell me that you need to have 100 people working. Plus, even in the example that you were giving with Rockstar, like, yeah, Rockstar needed to have a little bit of money, but let us also not forget, I mean, you remember the sales figures on Grand Theft Auto 5?
Yeah.
They sold enough of that game that, like, with a slim profit, they should have been able to do development for the next 4 or 5 years, which is what they did, right? They're like old Blizzard, where... Remember old Blizzard, where the games would sell so well that they only had to put out a game every like 4 years because they sold so well that you could literally keep a production house running for years with the profits that you made, and then you dump out your new game, and it's like so good that people.
Not only
pay
that,
for
they're
it.
really good about just getting like random people as their actors.
Yeah,
like they're not big Hollywood names most of the times. They're just some guys. Like John Marston is just some dude. That dude lives in a city right now where no one knows he's John Marston.
Oh yeah. Also vindictive though, because remember when they fucking cut Nico out after? Or no, was it the Roman? Or no, it was Nico. After he got all mad about the amount of money that GTA 4 made and what he was like paid, and he wanted like scale for it, and they were just like, no. And also, hey, guess what? Look at all these DLCs and all these brand new characters that are not Nico Bellic.
Yeah, him and actually, I think Roman too actually was like that too.
Yeah. All right, let's do some Discord questions. We've got not a lot of time left. Kate Josie says, "Dear Rage Select, I just bought a car." Hypothetical question. The movie Christine was about a boy in his possessed car. Put yourself in a situation like Christine, but you never died and you don't want to kill anyone. What would the relationship be like with you and your car well into 30 years of companionship? Would it be a lifelong friendship, or would it be a bitter marriage that only stays together for the Abomination Transformer kids? Hope this is a fun question. Rules are any car you owned. So you have a car, but it's alive and it doesn't try to kill people?
Then you just have Knight Rider at that point.
So you just have Knight Rider.
Then my life would be Knight Rider. That's my answer.
So then you buy a leather jacket, you know.
Exactly. Like I would get that little fucking line that it does in the front of it and everything. Yeah. And I would make sure it talks like Mr. Feeney from Boy Meets World.
Yeah. Or I guess yeah. I don't know, like I would probably if I had a car that had a personality and wanted to do stuff, I'd probably give it to somebody else. Like,
no, I got you. I understand what you mean.
I don't want a temperamental car. I guess it would be kind of nice if my car could drive me home from the bar, but I don't go downtown anymore, so I have to drive like 4 blocks to get home instead of like, you know, halfway across town.
The other issue is that you play games for a living, so that car is just going to be like, hey, are we going to do something? You're like, no, I got to...
Hey, guess what, car? We're going to go to Best Buy and Pete Terry's today.
It's like, yeah, I got to beat Sekiro. Like, so we're not going anywhere for like a week.
Yep. There are days where I don't get my car. I have groceries.
My car is filthy. I haven't washed it in like a year.
Yeah. I don't think I would like to have a sentient car. I think I would rather just, I like my neglected car. I don't get the oil changed very often. I don't like check the tires or anything.
I need to get my oil changed, actually. My registration's up.
Yeah, I'd probably give that car to somebody I would sell it to a rich person for a lot of money and then then I wouldn't have to work anymore and I'd just be a regular person with a regular car. Either that
my
or
life would be Knight Rider, though. That's my answer.
What could you do?
Solve mysteries and shit.
You could sell that car to a movie studio, and they can make
just
like
sell it to David Hasselhoff and see what happens.
I'm trying to think if my current car is like a 2004 Acura. You know, it's like not exactly Knight Rider. Also, I feel bad because I like smoke in my car, so there's like burn marks on the seats and like.
Plus, isn't like one of your windows all kind of fucked up too, or something?
Oh no,
like
I got that fixed.
Did you want to get that fixed
for like a year and a half? Yes, yeah. Anyway, and also, are we only about 5 years away from self-driving cars? Like, can I just
maybe it'll happen? Maybe we'll give it a personality.
Yeah. Ratchet Sly says, "Hey Jeff and Michael, What is the weirdest? Okay, what is the town with the weirdest name you visited? And if there was a game that had that town's name with the title, what would it be? For example, a couple of oddly named town names I visited are Saint Louis du Ha in Quebec or Dildo in Newfoundland. St. Louis would probably be some kind of RPG based on the comedy bard, whereas Dildo would be a game that would get Let's Players demonetized. Hope you guys are having a good week, and that's much Ratchet Sly. What's the weirdest town name you've ever been to?
I can't really think of one. Like, although recently I saw a headline that somebody's trying to get them to change the name of Dripping Springs into Pound Town.
Why?
Because apparently, like, the founders of the cities, I guess their last name was Pound, and so they wanted to call it Pound Town for some reason.
Lord.
So that's an answer. I don't know, actually. I've lived in Texas my whole life. We just name everything after everything else.
Buck Snort? That's a pretty good one. I think it's in Tennessee or
There's some
Arkansas.
interesting ones. Like, I know there's a place just called Hell, and Fuck You, I think, was one somewhere.
There's a town in Texas called Oatmeal.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
There's just another town called Ding Dong. That's okay. There we go.
There was one that I remember I used to make fun of all the time on my way to Del Rio, and I can't for life of me remember it anymore.
Yeah.
Ah, shit. It's like between Castroville and some other place, but I used to always make fun of it because it sounded stupid as shit. Fuck, I didn't even remember.
I'm gonna tell you, Ratchet Sly. Here's my dumb non-answer gaming your question. Austin. And then anything. I don't care. There aren't any games set in Austin. I want games set in Austin. Like, I think it would be cool if there was like a... I mean, I know that if you're going to make a Grand Theft Auto...
Now that I think about it.
It'd be like Houston, right? But yeah, like, Austin's a wackadoo crazy town, man. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Set the next Watch Dogs in Austin, Texas. And do that. We got taco trucks and... fucking live music capital of the world. That's stupid. It's not really the live music capital of the world, but that's what they call it because... We're an arrogant town. We're daring us to be smitten. But
we pretty much are, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Austin's interesting, and I think that I'd love to see something. You know what? And back up one further from that, I just like to see stuff that's not set in New York City or Los Angeles. Like, just not that.
Yeah, I mean, that Chicago.
Yeah, take Chicago. Miami. I'm still like so with Miami. At least whenever you set a show in Miami, it's like when you do the transition, there's always a picture of like two girls in bikinis walking and you're looking at their butts or whatever.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Like Dexter and Burn Notice and like any show set in Miami, there's always a transition where you're looking at the butts of bikini girls and then
or a game that's based on that area, like Vice City.
Yep. Dan K says, after playing The Division 2, I feel like I'm burnt out on the current open world formula. How do you feel about open worlds in their current state? What mechanics do you think you would add to open world formula? Story. That's what I would add.
Yeah, the Spider-Man game, I think, is probably one of my most favorite open world games because I enjoyed its story quite a bit.
I'm going to tell you right now, like I would have enjoyed Destiny a lot more. You know what? I started enjoying Destiny when the Taken King happened because they were upfront about the story.
It was fun.
Destiny 2, I didn't really get into very much, but like it had a story, and so I cared more about what happens with the guy that wants the Traveler. He's the big fucking jump guy.
Yeah.
Like the Division 1 had a story, and I played it. The Division 2 was like, I don't know. And the reason I like Anthem so much is because it had a story. Fucking Darth Vader wants to kill people by getting the Anthem of Creation. Stop him. Okay. And then like, oh, your friends, those guys are mad at you. Here's your new guy. Let's hang out. He's funny. Let's have a good time. And I was like, okay, that's what does it for me. Like, I don't want to play World of Warcraft because I never wanted to play an MMO because it was like the story seemed very incidental to doing raids and getting loot, doing blah blah. Like that's why I like Diablo's because I like the story of Diablo. You know, It's got a good game, but I also like the story. You know, even though Deckard Cain's niece got fucking horribly shafted in Diablo 3.
Okay, I did not know that. Yeah, open world games, especially these looter shooter open world games, the stories are never really all that interesting with them. Like, I know how people are like, it's a good story. It's like, but is it though? Is it really? Like, it's just, they're so, like I want to be able to play with these games by myself and feel like I'm having a good time. Is really my actual issue with these types of games, because I bought Destiny when it first came out because I was excited, and then everyone I knew kind of stopped playing, and then I was like, oh, I am bored now by myself. I did the exact same thing when Destiny 2 came out, because and they fucking tricked me again.
Yep.
And then I thought about doing it when The Division came out, and I was like, I'm not falling for that again. I just can't do this. And the same with Division 2 and Anthem, to be honest.
Yeah, and I don't fault anybody for that. I guess it's just that a good example is I played Red Dead Online, and it was like, I don't give a shit about this. I love Red Dead 2.
Yeah.
But like I do not give a shit about this online because there's no story. It's just like, go get that wagon. And I'm like, I'm not in this for the mechanics, bro.
Yeah.
I'm in this for the fucking, like, the story of Dr. Albert Schnitzel and dumb Dutch with this fucking, I got a plan. It occurred to me the other day, see how this tracks for you, Michael. Do you think that Dutch is like whiny people on the internet who's just like, we got to create a new world where we can do whatever we want to. And it's like, yeah, but all you keep doing is harassing people.
No, that's exactly what Dutch
shitty
does.
Things. And he's like, but the government, they're trying to stop us. And it's like, Dutch, as near as I can tell, the government should be trying to stop you because you rob people.
It's also heavily implied that he has brain damage throughout the game. I think one of my favorite gags I ever saw, there was a meme about him. It was like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia opening. Like, if we do it well, nobody has to get hurt. And the next thing is the gang kills everyone.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's missing for me in online games is like I go to play Red Dead Online and I don't care about my character and I don't care about the world. I care about Arthur Morgan and Dutch and John Marsden, and like I care about those characters. I don't care about riding a horse around. Like, it doesn't matter. Now, if there's a story, like we went back and played the Grand Theft Auto 5 when they brought Gay Tony into the online, and that was kind of fun, but still it was like, but this is just like you're doing a bunch of missions and it's kind of interesting, but I need a story. Like, I don't give a shit about loot tables, and I don't give a shit about how long. And also, I'm starting to get to the point where if your game is longer than 20 hours, I don't even want to fucking play it. Like, I get tired of games. So once you get to the Anthem end game, the reason I've never been so perturbed about Anthem's end game problems is because I don't give a shit about it. End game. Like, I beat the story, and when there's new story content, I will go play that story content, but I don't care about maximizing my storm mech. I just don't care. It's like back in World of Warcraft. We get to the end of World of Warcraft and people are just doing the same raid over and over again to maximize their loot, and I'm like, but why? Like, if you don't, I mean, once you've maxed out, what do you care what happens next? Like, who cares what happens next?
It's the thing that, like, it makes me, like, as much shit as you give the Halo story, I love the Halo 1 through 3 story because because when you played co-op with friends, you were playing the story for it.
Sure.
And it was fun every single time. I replayed all three of those so many fucking times with friends and even by myself because there's a story that I actually enjoyed the whole way through.
I fully admit that Halo has probably suffered in my mind from the fact that people treat it like it's the second coming and will brook no criticism of it.
It's not the second coming, but it's a fairly solid shooting story.
Especially when it first came out.
Oh, yeah, that's true, actually.
And when it first came out, I worked at Microsoft.
Oh, God.
You could buy the
bastard.
Xbox at the company store for less. Like, you got like 20% off if you'd been there for a while. So everybody bought the Xbox. They all wanted to play Halo. And they were just like, look, a game with a Jeep. And I was like, motherfucker, games have had Jeeps for a long time. Like, but this one has a Jeep. And I'm like, guy, Terminator Future Shock had a Jeep. And that came out like 5-10 years ago. This was around the time when Counter-Strike had Jeepathon as a map, where it's just a big circle where you got in a Jeep and rode around in a circle. Like, I was like, yeah, Jeep isn't like, this isn't new, you assholes. Like, this isn't a new thing in video games.
To me, it was pretty much just that, like, console gamers finally had a shooter that didn't suck ass.
Yep.
It's pretty much what it was. It was the first time you played a shooter and you're like, hey, this actually feels really nice.
Yep.
Like, it wasn't GoldenEye, like, or Duke Nukem Total Meltdown where you had to use the face buttons that kind of, like, aim somewhat.
Or, like, whenever I go back to some of those old, I mean, like, try to go back and play like a From Software game like Kingsfield or like
exactly.
and it's like this is the PlayStation 1 where you were using the L2 and R2 buttons to like look up and down, and it was like,
or maybe the square and the circle moved left or right. It was fucking ridiculous. It was a shitty time, people.
It's fine. I mean, like I'm over it. It's just I didn't ever get on that Halo bandwagon.
It's a tragic tale.
So. Psycho Knight says, now that Disney has officially absorbed Fox Entertainment into its all-consuming mass, are you excited about the future for properties like X-Men, Fantastic Four, Deadpool, and others? Do you think it's impossible for Disney to do any worse than Fox did with these properties, or is Disney's ownership going to result in them churning out constant material and wearing down any excitement?
You want to know what I'm actually excited for? It's not even the MCU.
Yeah.
It's that we finally can let the Inhumans not be a thing anymore.
Yes. Yeah. I was really excited about that, too. Someone was talking about that on a podcast, and I was like, yay, you can stop trying to shove the Inhumans down our throats.
Fuck the Inhumans. Like, okay, actually, you know what? I used to like the Inhumans a little bit, but when they kept trying to make them the new X-Men, I was like, stop. Just fucking stop.
Or not that, but like people got their powers from the Terrigen Mists.
The Terrigen Mist fucking killed Cyclops, you sick fucks. I was so fucking... Oh my god, I'm so pissed off about that. Like, it's just like... And apparently, like, according to comic book writers, they weren't allowed to create new X-Men because the rights would go to Fox to be able to make movies with them.
But they did the thing where it was like... The storyline was that like the mutant race was dying off because...
It was fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. It's like, but don't worry, you guys, because we still got the Terrigen Mists and the Inhumans.
And they wouldn't make like X-Men related anything. Like you couldn't buy an X-Men toy to save your fucking life because they just wouldn't do it. Like that's what I'm actually excited about, is that X-Men things can happen again. Like the second like this deal was happening, Ultimate Alliance 3 was like, look how Wolverine's in this thing. We use X-Men again. It's like, yes, do that again.
Yep.
Give me my X-Men back.
Yeah, I think, you know what? I think that if they, like, I'm not entirely sure what the fuck is going on, what the fuck will go on. I think if they were smart, that what they would do is, because I'm pretty sure, okay, like, let everybody, if you don't want to hear speculation about Infinity War and the MCU, you need to skip forward 4 or 5 minutes here.
Yeah.
But, like, we're all relatively certain that Endgame is gonna kind of be the end of seeing RDJ and Chris Evans in Avengers movies, right? Like, they've been grooming Falcon and the Scarlet Witch and, like, you know, other people to kind of come in and take over, and that whether those characters are gone or just retire. Like, I was thinking, you and I were talking about how I would like to see Iron Man just like straight up retire and be like, I'm not gonna have a walk on as the tech guy from time to time.
Yeah.
And then in 5 years, when you do the next Infinity War, maybe at the very end, he has to like come out of retirement and do a CGI.
It would be fun.
But like, I think that it would be cool if they managed to let up on it. Like, there are some dumb comic book logic outcomes where what happened in Infinity War is reversed, but now things are a little bit different. And oh shit, there's mutants now. And so now we can put mutants. Well, first off, because if that happens at the end of after Infinity War, you can reboot all of the X-Men, right?
Yeah.
Decide who you want them to be. You can then integrate some X-Men or just straight up mutants into, because I don't, are a lot of the Avengers mutants? Like, that's the main thing where people in the Marvel get their powers, right?
Yeah, a lot of people were mutants, and then God, Marvel did such a crazy job at trying to like not make people mutants for a long time.
Yeah,
you're like Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver aren't mutants anymore. They're like, wait, what?
Oh, he's fast and she's weird.
It's like what is happening?
Okay, all right, cool. I guess let's just do this.
It's so frustrating what they were doing. I'm sorry. It's just God, fucking Marvel.
But so I think it'd be really cool if they rebooted the X-Men into the universe, and then because you know what, I know that people aren't going to like this very much, but I feel like if you brought the X-Men and the Fantastic Four into the universe, you can start killing people.
Yeah.
Because you can have Colossus be around for a few years and then you can kill him off, but unlike the comics, don't bring him back. Like, bring in Warlock now. Like, there's so many characters, and the MCU you could put out 4 movies a year in the MCU and you wouldn't touch 10% of the characters in the Marvel universe.
No, absolutely.
And now that you're starting to kind of lump all of them back together, it's like, now you can bring them in and you can have them do stuff and you could kill them off and then they can be out of there. Just don't bring Wolverine back in. I've had enough Wolverine. My belly is full with Wolverine. He's had 9 movies, and
he's got a lot of shit.
Everybody's just like
he's got a Guinness. Hugh Jackman has a Guinness record for the most
comic book movies. Yeah,
it's fucking crazy.
Don't bring him back. Don't bring him back. In fact, you know what? I would say leave out Professor X, leave out Magneto, and leave out Logan, and make it the Storm team. And make it like a weird day. I still want to see that New Mutants horror movie.
Yeah, whatever. We have no idea what they're going to do with that movie now.
Nope. I'd like to see
the merger's done.
I'd like to see Deadpool get in on the MCU. I think that would be fun.
That would be.
You know what I'd really like to see? I'd like to see a Deadpool Negasonic Warhead. I've wanted this for years. I want to see actually, you know what? Take Deadpool out. This is my dream project. I know no one will ever do it. Swear to God, this would make you fucking money. I want to see a Negasonic Teenage Warhead Emma Frost road trip comedy, like Romy and Michelle's high school reunion, but with mutants, and they're not dumb, right?
Why Emma Frost specifically?
Because she's so prissy, and Negasonic Teenage Warhead is such a surly teenager that I feel like the two of them could go get play off of each other well. And
I'd watch that.
Maybe they pick up Jubilee as a hitchhiker in the middle of Nevada or something like that, or just a regular person, a POV character that's hanging out with these 2 weird mutants that are trying to drive to a symposium in California or something, and the Cyclops the X jet is broken down, so you guys got to take the car, you got to take the X van to go to California, and then they maybe run into somebody, and it's fucking the Blob is at a rest stop or something. I don't know. I keep waiting for somebody to make a superhero comedy that's not necessarily about Ant-Man was kind of funny, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the MCU movies have been funny, but make it so that it's not necessarily about the powers so much as it is about the characters, because
I get you.
That's what I care about. But
you want to know what I would want them to adapt? The World's Worst X-Men. That character.
Who's that?
He's a guy who found out he's a mutant, but his only superpower is he can explode, but just the one time, because he can't reconfigure anything. He can just explode
one time,
and die immediately.
Okay.
So he was known as the World's Worst X-Man because that's his entire power set.
Okay. I don't know. I hope that they bring in the Fantastic Four, because I feel like the Fantastic Four have gotten fucked. I mean,
I want non-Cloud Galactus.
I like that. That'd be great for your second Infinity War, right?
Fucking fantastic.
They've got the door open for that cosmic shit. I'm like, bring in Kang and Immortus, man.
Yeah, fuck.
That's a weird story. Of course, Kang. I hear that I'm a little mad because I haven't seen Captain Marvel yet, but as I understand it, they do have the Supreme Intelligence, and it's not a big green fat head with tentacles coming out of the top of it. So, boo.
That's disappointing.
Anyway, I like the first Fantastic Four movie.
I think it's fine, actually.
I don't care.
It's not great, but it's okay. It's fun.
Yeah, I had no expectations. I was just like...
Also, Chris Evans is great in it.
Yep. Okay, last but not least, Brandon writes in and says, "Hello, Jeff and Michael. Brandon here with a question that's been bugging me. My friends have recently started to try and get into D&D, and I honestly have zero fun playing. But if I stopped, it'd be too few people to let them continue. What do I do? I have zero fun because I roll like shit and cannot roleplay to save my life. I also hate having one of my weekend days taken up by this, but I can't be a dick and stop playing with them. Can I? Please help. Your loyal patron, Brandon." First off, Brandon, allow me to say to you, yes, you can totally be a dick and stop playing with them. It will collapse the game, and they will not be able to play anymore. But, it's not fair to ask you to play a game that you hate.
It's not fair to you at all. In fact, it's not fair to them.
Yep.
To do that. Okay, let me I have mentioned this before. I did start a D&D game not too long ago.
Yeah.
Today, one of the reasons I'm not doing it is that one of the guys left because he works at 7 a.m. the next day.
Yep.
2, one of the other people got sick, and so we didn't do it today. And 3, I kind of didn't want to do it today.
Yep.
Because I am kind of in almost the same boat as you, where everybody's just like, hey, we want to do this game. I had never played D&D. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, I'm trying to have fun with it. But I'm not great at the role-playing thing either, especially with that 2 of them are very veteran players, and they're super fucking good at it.
Yep.
So it's like an improv group almost, where they pass it to me, and I'm just like, elevators, I guess. I don't fucking know. It's like, I don't know what to do. They're like goblins speak and all this stuff, and I was like, yeah, I know how to speak goblin. They're like, could you speak it? I'm like, what do you mean? It's like say something in goblin. I'm like, what the fuck do you want me to do?
No
like,
habla inglés.
It's frustrating. It's like, what? I just started, and you want me to like improv this shit? Like, I'm sorry, but I don't want to, like, I can't really do that.
One of the hardest things with D&D is getting the right chemistry.
It's hard.
Because if you don't have it, like, I remember I ran a game once. This isn't one of my previous stories, so you don't have to skip ahead. Where we ran a game in this place that I lived, and my roommate's girlfriend and her hot friend liked to watch and literally laugh at us while we played D&D.
Oh, wow.
And I remember being like, could you please get the fuck out of here? And he was like, hey, dude, that's my girlfriend. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not having any fun. And she was like, I live here too. And it's like, but you're not doing anything. You're making fun of us. And she was like, well, what you're doing is stupid. And I was just like, I quit. Like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to sit here and be laughed at by some bitch while I play this game. But so, Brandon, here, and Michael, here are some things that I can suggest. There are builds, characters, and things that you can do to make the game more fun. But what you have to kind of think of is what would make you feel more comfortable. So here's an example. Okay, you don't like role playing? Play a mute. Play a mute like a swordsman, right?
It's not that I don't like role playing. It's just I'm not good at it.
Sure,
especially compared to them, I guess, if that makes sense.
Sure. But like, here's a starting point, right? Is like your friends want to role play, you don't want to role play, you're the mute swordsman, and then you could just say like, I give them a withering look, right? Like, you don't have to say anything because your character literally can't speak. Or let's say in your case that you say you're not very good at role playing, right? Play a bad bard. Play a bard that's not good at acting, and then you could just be like, a tale of something. I mean, like, you can, if you can like leverage your weaknesses into a character that has something similar, then you can make it fun because you could play it up. Right? You literally be like, let's say that your character, or when all else fails, and I know this doesn't work for you, but it might work for Brandon. But when all else fails, this is a Hail Mary. Create a new character and make them a drunk, and then you drink, and you get drunk, and then you be that person, and don't role play, just be drunk, and then be like, my character's drunk. You guys got shit. I gotta do it. I gotta pee again. Roll to pee. And then they'll either kick you out or they'll dissolve the game because you're not fun anymore. But I mean, like, there are things that you could do, like play an orc, like, depending on the campaign, right? Play as an orc, right? So that you're just like always out of place and don't know anything. Play a character with very low charisma. Play a character with a 2 charisma score, and then play that character as being very little charisma. And you're just kind of a Hulk smash, right? Like, you're not a philosopher, you're just fucking meat man. And then you could just be like, we get to town, I would like to drink. And then, like, if your friends try to make you do stuff, then you can either tell them, I don't feel comfortable doing that, or you can just irritate them until they stop asking you, or you could just stop going to the game because it's supposed to be a fun thing, and if it's not fun, then it's not fun. So.
Like, I've eventually started having a little fun with it, which is what I was going to get to eventually, I guess, which is that eventually you might find yourself getting a little more fun with it once you have enough time with it. Yeah. But, like, it really, because that's what I'm finally at the point where I'm like, okay, this is a little fun. One of the only issues I have that it makes it less fun is that I do it right after work.
Yeah.
Because it is a work group of people. And so I've spent the entire day talking.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, now I have to talk some more right after work kind of thing.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, no, I feel that. The main thing, and also one of the things that I could really recommend is make a
Also, he's right. Rolling is hard.
You got you just gotta.
I tried to use a whip to disarm a dude, and I was like, "Yeah, I hit it." And then the guy's like, "Well, now you got to roll again to figure out if you took it out." I'm like, "God, fucking damn it!" And I got like a 4, and I'm like, "Fuck this."
No,
this is stupid.
See what you want to do. See, that's the thing is first off, I don't know who the fuck is letting you play with a whip.
I love that thing.
But like all right. I mean, your dex should be so high if that's like the skill that gives you bonuses to that. You should be able to roll a 2 and still hit somebody with it. But the thing is that I feel like a lot of times people play the wrong classes to start with. So like mages are good because they have cantrips that they can cast for free. And a lot of their things automatically hit, or you don't have to like do that much to hit with them. Rogues are really good because you could do sneaky and silly shit, right? Like you don't have to deal with like flanking and frontline fighting and shit like that. I do like bards. They're terrible characters. Don't ever play a bard, but I like them because they just get to fucking sing a bunch and then everybody gets a bonus, and they're bad wizards basically that have some thief skills. But like pick one of those characters. Don't be a fighter. Like that's too boring. And then like write a backstory for your character. Well, I like playing a fighter.
Well, I'm a fighter. That's why I was like, what are you just calling me out now?
No, I mean like, well, the thing is that when you're first playing D&D, like, okay, so let me put it this way. Rogues, when it comes to the non-combat part, have a bunch of stuff that they can do, right? They've got, ways of picking people's pockets or climbing up on the roof or doing like things like that. Like wizards have things that they can do outside of combat. They've got fucking powers, right? Even clerics a lot of times have. I always tell people to try starting with a cleric because clerics have charisma as one of their core stats, or at least they did in 3rd edition. And that means that you're going to have a high charisma character, which means that you could try to talk your way out of stuff. And that if you have a pretty high charisma character, you might just do it. And then you're going to piss off your DM really bad because you're going to be talking your way out of shit where it's like, well, do you speak Goblin? And I'm like, well, does my wizard have a translate spell? And then like, so I don't know. Like, here's the thing. If you're really not having fun, what I would really recommend doing is going to your DM, getting with your DM and coming up with a new character and see how that character plays differently. Like, never try to have a balanced party. Have a party where everybody gets to do what they want to do and it's fun. That's what I say, at least. But again, Brandon, my friends, so when I was in my mid-30s, my friends got into this thing where they wanted to play board games, right? So I had 2 of my friends that were a couple, another 2 of my friends that were a couple, and every Friday night they wanted to go to that one friend's house, and everybody would bring over a bunch of beer, and they wanted to sit around and play board games and get drunk. And I did that for a while, and it was like, all right, you two are fucking, and I'm fucking drunk. That's what's going on here. And after 2 months straight of doing this, every single Friday night they wanted to play board games, I eventually was like, guys, I'm not doing this anymore. And they were like, why? We have so much fun. And I'm like, you have fun, but I like to go to the bar and pretend like I might get laid at some point in my life. I know I'm not going to, but I at least like to go and pretend. I like to look at the pretty girls and pretend like maybe someday I'll have the confidence to go talk to them. Or like, sometimes you go to the bar and weird shit falls in your lap and you're just like, oh, hey, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. Sometimes people walk up and talk to you at the bar. It happens from time to time.
Sometimes they offer you Coke. It happens.
Yeah. One time we helped this chick buy weed off some other dude at a bar someplace. Anyway, like, so it got to the point where I had to just be like, no, I'm not doing this. And they were just like, oh, and then they got mad at me. They were like, what do you mean you're not going to come over and play board games anymore? It's no fun with only 4 people. It's just 2 teams. And I was like, well, it sounds like a problem where you guys need to fucking make some new friends and go bring them in. Why don't you find a 3rd couple to play games with you? Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then eventually they got over it, and then we got estranged and blah, 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 blah. With that, there's only 7 minutes and 20 seconds left until Sekiro unlocks. And that means this podcast is over, motherfuckers. Michael, when you're not here at the Rage Select Podcast, where else do you podcast in this world?
You can find me on oneofus.net as well as Geek Bombast with John Sitton sometimes.
Yeah. Mail@rageselect.com is the email address. We got some great questions this week. We had some great news this week. We had a lot of great fun this week. Send in more questions. We always need them. Go buy a shirt at rageselect.com/store. Should have mentioned that at the beginning. Oh, well. Sekiro's out. It's too late now. Bye, everybody. I'm going to go play Sekiro.